I don't think the status quo is the way to go. I mean, broadband, as we've been talking about for the last few weeks, has been an issue in the community for some time. I attended the forum as well as you, and I heard that, there are, a lot of, I guess, infrastructure improvements, but I don't understand why we keep having these problems if we have all this infrastructure. So,
well, because we're in the past.
Yeah, we are.
We're in the past when it comes to broadband service.
Yeah.
I mean, Fury Kell, he busted this MediaCom lady at
He
that
did a
forum.
good job.
You were there, yeah.
Yeah.
She's saying, "Oh yes, we have the greatest coverage or something everywhere," and they just can't be beaten. I see it on this no government internet page that they've got. It's the same nonsense. But Fury, after that lady said that, he held up a map that said, "We're in an internet hole, and all these rural areas around us has fiber optic and higher speed."
And I see
and better service.
Lorville is actually putting fiber optic.
Lauraville, population 400.
Yeah.
Is putting in fiber optics. But this train here in Fort Dodge is apparently too good to get off for MediaCom.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not going to be satisfied until they've got every dime out of every citizen in Fort Dodge, I guess, for poor service and poor customer service.
Yeah. And I kind of pushed for this internet, looking at the internet over the last couple of years. I did a little research on Chattanooga, Tennessee, which was one of the first ones that went with a public utility internet-based fiber optics. I've had my questions and concerns. I mean, basically, I don't know the technology changes in the future with the satellite, and Mr. Musk has got his satellites up there now and actually utilizing some of them in kind of a test run. So maybe the future is going to be satellite internet. It's apparently compatible speeds with what's available.
Not if MediaCom has anything to say about it, I'll tell you.
I'm sure they'll start a Facebook page.
They will. They'll start no outer space internet.
Well, even Facebook's looking at it. Google's looking at it. A lot of private providers. But again, I think this market is, we have a problem. I mean, we definitely have slow internet speeds. We have poor reliability.
And the customer service is really 30, 35 years out of date.
Well, that's what I pointed that out on Monday night during the discussion with Mr. Dean when he came in and was talking about that. WMTEL and Webster Calhoun Telephone Cooperative, they do not have the best technology, I don't think, but their customer service is so good that people love them. And so, I mean, if MediaCom would step up the customer service game, I'm sure some of the complaints would probably decrease.
They want us to get us tied into a contract, and then they're going to tell us what happens.
Yeah. And
that's what they do. And even if you don't have a contract, and I've gone both ways with them, they still are going to tell you when they're going to give you service.
Yeah.
And
again,
if you're not there, it's your fault.
We don't want
now, that's great 21st century customer service, isn't it?
But we don't want to pick on MediaCom alone because there's other providers out there, but we have no idea what Frontier is doing because they've never sent a representative and they've had no comment on this entire process.
Kind of like they've stepped away from the game.
Yeah, they just don't care.
I guess I don't know. I've seen a pie chart that Frontier is not.
They've got several. I mean, I've got the chart in front of me somewhere, but they have a percentage of the people. MediaCom's the big dog, so obviously you pick on the big dog.
That's
right. Yeah,
and this is MediaCom, by the way, has its headquarters in New York.
Yeah. So they're out there.
Yeah, they're way out there.
Yeah.
And did you hear David Furyk yesterday? And I suppose you did. We took a little bit of a shot at you.
Yeah, I heard you. Yeah.
We just didn't remember your name or what you looked like. But other than that, you're.
I've been gone. I was gone last week. So I'm forgettable. I understand that.
But
I'm fine with that.
The main complaint is that we'll build this broadband service, or the manufactured complaint, I should say, because it's just hysteria. People say I try to stir things up. I have never seen anything like that group down the south side of town to get their people so scared of everything. Like the old Holy Rosary School there. Oh, my God, we cannot have condos.
Can't flush the toilet.
We can't flush the toilet. The sewer line is too small. And, oh, my God, this is another city project we must resist. We're being hosed. So we didn't get condos down there. Yeah. Well, we do have Community Christian School. It's got 200 kids down there. So instead of 6 condos, with what, a dozen or 20 people or 24 people in them. We got 200 kids there, and all of a sudden that's no problem.
Yeah.
I think it had something to do with the developers of the old
But
Holy
again,
Rosary School.
I just want to let people know that the city council looked at this, and we've been informed about this with our pre-feasibility study and our final report with our advisor that we did hire, and we paid for that money out of the
Curtis
sewer
Dean,
fund. Yeah, and we paid for him out of the sewer fund, so there was some cost to the taxpayers to get this initial information going. It was $22,500.
22,000.
Yeah, is what we paid for the information. So again, we're not asking to start a utility at this point, but we want that option to be on the table. I think basically when the citizens, if they decide to support this, and again, it is up to the vote, it's not a decision made by anybody other than the people that vote. If you decide to vote for it, that does not obligate us to do it. The costs are quite high, as you saw. I mean, $22 to $32 million is basically what they're estimating.
That's a construction cost.
That's construction costs. And but again, it's not going to be a taxpayer burden because this will be funded by the utility. So the people that use the service are going to be the ones that are going to pay for it. So you as a taxpayer that may not need or use the internet to the extreme, as some of these people that are streaming movies and watching TV on it and all these things, and I watch Netflix and I have that circle of death that shows up right in the middle of the good parts, and I have to sit there and wait for it
Don't you love that?
and reboot, continually. And I told you that my son was back and he was downloading a video game. It took him 9.5 hours to download a game on my internet.
That's
so
rapid fire.
Yeah.
That's fireballing internet speed, isn't it?
Yeah. But anyway,
We have just as good a service as any place in the state.
Yeah, well, that's not true.
That's
But
not
anyway,
true.
it's just, this is basically step one in a multi-step process. Just because you vote yes doesn't mean that you're going to, have internet available next week. It's going to take a series of actions. We're going to have to look at the financial details much more closely. We'll probably go out and look for a provider to come in and do this instead of the city doing it. I really do not see the support or feel that the people would really support us going out and bonding for this. I think it's going to have to be a kind of a joint private-public venture.
Well, what do you mean by that? Eric was talking revenue bonds yesterday, and by the way,
that's a possibility. That's one of the choices.
yeah, that's one of the. But
One of the
I just
choices.
want to point out. I need to point this out to all the tinfoil hat people out there who think the city's going to get them. That revenue bonds, if a project fails, they cannot fall back on taxpayers.
Right.
General obligation bonds
Can.
is what some of these tinfoil hat people are thinking of. General obligation bonds, if the project fails, then the taxpayers are on the hook. But let me say this again to you. You cannot charge the taxpayers if a revenue bond project fails.
That's the responsibility of the utility.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that's kind of one of the false information pieces that's out there.
There's so much false information out there, just hysteria and screaming and insults
Yeah.
over a broadband.
It's just because it's there, we're not going to force you to take it.
That's
You
right.
have the option to take it, and obviously, if it does pass, and if we do proceed with this, it's a lot easier to get in on the ground floor, just like Xenia water systems. They will run it by your front door, but if you want to hook up later, it's going to cost you a little bit extra money. And it's the same thing with fiber optics. But, advantages of the high speed, reliability, good customer service. But, I mean, you look at, like security camera issues, we have a crime problem, and I don't think that's newsworthy. But, we do have a crime problem. If we had citywide internet, we could put cameras out there on a wireless base that we would be able to access and be able to have better security. So, I mean, there's all kinds of benefits to the community other than just the fact that you can download your movies quicker.
Yeah, that's right.
So, it's an.
I think dependable internet, fast, dependable internet is an absolute essential product in the 21st century.
And it has to be. And I looked at some of those, and I've seen some of the comments about that they had a guy or a company look at the some of the economics involved with this, and they were showing some of the hookups and whatever, and they were questioning the location of some of these potential line drops, as they call them. That was done kind of a quick and easy, down and dirty type of survey. I think they were basically going by addresses and just plopping little drop-off points where they felt they should be. Those things have not been formalized, and so that was just kind of a guesstimate on the need of the community. They show just over 10,000 houses in the community, which is true, but people forget that about 4,000 of those are rental properties, and so is the landlord going to pay to run fiber optics to your house? Who knows? So we might potentially only have 6,000 people that would be interested in this. Businesses, I'm surprised that more businesses didn't participate in the survey. The number was a little bit low, I thought, and I think this is, definitely an economic opportunity for a lot of smaller businesses, especially those that are trying to sell anything online. You got to have the good, reliable internet, and if you do not have that, you're obviously going to struggle. And they mentioned one lady that was a teacher teaching a class in China, and without reliable internet, she was garbled and unable to communicate. So there's a lot of people out there that use the internet for a variety of things, not just to surf and
more
update to Facebook.
and more things will start taking place on the internet.
Everything. Look,
you and I are old dogs. We don't understand the implications yet.
Until Al Gore invented this, nobody knew what was out there. So
yeah,
that was a shot at Al Gore.
And Mediacom has one reason to exist, and it's not for the taxpayers of Fort Dodge, Iowa. It's to make a profit.
It's for their shareholders.
That's it, for their shareholders, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's recognize it. Let's quit kidding ourselves. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the situation is on the intersection of 8th Avenue South and 25th Street.
8th Avenue South and 25th Street. What's going on out there?
I know there's construction out there. There has been.
What's your question?
Well, there's nobody been working on it for the last week and a half, and I just wonder if they're going to finish it up this winter, open up that intersection.
That'd be a good plan, wouldn't it?
Well, that's a combination of federal and state money. The city actually doesn't have a lot of money invested in that. I don't know the status of the contractor. I don't know when they were planning on finishing that, but I can check on it and get back. I don't know off the top of my head. I know they have been working on that for all summer. It took them a while to get going, and then once they got going, there was a lot of delays with water, and they had a lot of water down there in 8th Avenue South. So I know they have been working on it, but I wasn't aware that 25th had been closed that long, so I will check on that.
You want to leave your email, and Menke can email you a response?
No.
No.
I just want to see the street opened up.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. All right.
Yeah, okay.
All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. At least he called in. A lot of people call when the news is on.
Well, the good thing about it is that these contractors want to get done. You've worked road construction before.
I certainly have.
It's not a very pleasurable time to be out there doing anything. And
I was an equipment operator, so I was
you're
fine.
You're fine. Yeah, but
It was those poor 25-year-old kids out there on the road who were freezing.
I've been watching Jensen and Castor out there in front of my office, and they were there early, and they've been staying late. So it's tough, but 8th Avenue South has been a good project. We're putting sidewalks, reconstructing the entire thing, water, sewer, new roads. So it's going to be a very nice stretch of road when it's done. Again, that was a federal and state project. The city really actually didn't have too much to do with that whole process. We did have to kick.
Well, what are they doing there? Sewer?
Complete
or something?
reconstruction.
Complete reconstruction.
Yep. Put a trail.
Well, what do you mean
on
the city didn't have much to do?
It was
with
all
that?
state and federal money. It was actually determined to be a federal project, so we actually got federal money for that, which is
All
a
right.
result of some of our trips out to D.C. That's what happens when you start talking to the right people.
AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. First of all, I'd like to preface it by saying it seems to me, like Ed Breen used to say, that I recall hearing that when they were doing the resurface on 15th, it was going to continue on to 29th Street from 10th Avenue north. Or am I just delusional?
It seems to me, thank you for the reference. Boy, that takes you back.
Yeah, 29th, we actually have a meeting this week to go over the future plans for the street reconstruction. We've got Chad Schaefer. Chad Schaefer's got a pretty well formalized list, and then the council has the input on the streets that they think need the work. 29th has been an issue for some time, and I think you're probably going to see that one kind of rise up. I think probably they do neighborhoods now instead of individual streets a lot of times, so 29th will probably be in conjunction with some other streets up there in that area. But we're well aware of the fact that 29th is deteriorated, and I think that's towards the top of the list for the next spring's reconstruction phase. But we'll know more. We all have our areas, the Avenue M West, 2.5 Avenue North, 21st Street area over by St. Ed's. They just did 22nd, but 2.5 Avenue North, and that 21st is really, really bad and has been for a long time. Actually, 2nd Avenue North from 22nd over to the railroad tracks was bad, and they ran out
Our
of money
streets are, and I know they're coming along, and we've come a long way in 10 years, but I'll tell you. The previous councils and mayors let these streets go to absolute hell.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have to deal with it themselves. So they could just, it was really a disgrace.
Yeah.
I mean,
we had
there are some people on that council that are responsible for our streets.
it was bad.
And then they had the audacity to bark about it because we were trying to fix the street.
Yeah, in Country Club Drive out there, going to the Country Club, we brought that up Monday night. There's a new process out now called Crack and Seat, which is the old Country Club was made in the 60s, and I'm pretty sure that one-way drive, it's in and out. There's no other roads.
That was an old
And
barn, I
Parkwood
think.
Circle. Yeah, it was at one time. But that road was poured, and nothing's been done, and the concrete out there is, was not prepared properly. There wasn't a whole lot of underfill or whatever they call it. I'm not, up to date on that. But with this new technology now, they're going to come in and smash the concrete, and they're going to use that as a base for the asphalt. And the nice thing about it is that they can do that, and you can still have the traffic in and out. The only time they have to shut it down is when they have to put the asphalt down. So it's a cost-effective. When we looked at that street about 4 years ago, it was about a $3 million project, and they're estimating now it's going to be about $750,000. So we actually saved a lot of money. And the good thing about it is we've got a lot of dead-end streets that this same process can be used on, where you can actually continue to access your home. There'll be a short inconvenience period, quite unlike at the 8th Avenue South. But basically, you just they come in, they shake the heck out of it, they fracture the concrete, and then they come over the top of it, and it turns into a nice road. So that's something the Country Club's been asking for a long, long time. And there's a lot of people out in the Country Club that have been very vocal about that, but they've, they recognize that there's other streets that need help too. But an opportunity presented itself where we can kind of run this as a pilot project and get it done next spring.
Well, I see the city council guys don't go to the Country Club; they go to Amigos.
Yeah, well,
they go to Amigos. As much we can sit here and talk broadband and the necessity for broadband. We can sit here and talk crime in our city, which is a huge problem. But still, people upmost in their mind are the day-to-day convenience things like bad roads.
Yep, streets and potholes.
Streets and potholes.
We hear about that all the time.
And you can make your houses look as nice as you want, but if your street and your curbing is crap, it just brings the whole neighborhood down.
Well, again, it's an incentive to buy local, because that local sales option tax is what we use to pay for street reconstruction. And this year in the GO bond asking, we're going to ask for $2 million for streets. Last year we asked for $1 million, and it did not go through. So
why? Because
there were other projects that took a higher priority. So that $2 million was put in there. We did it 2 years ago, and we ended up with $1 million in the GO bond, and that paid for the Williams Drive reconstruction and some other smaller projects in town. But you have to remember, these streets are very expensive. I mean, especially if you're doing any infrastructure, if you're doing water and sewer and all that underneath them. Storm sewers, they're almost $1 million a block. So if you have a couple $1 million, that doesn't get you very far. So local option sales tax in conjunction with GO bond and with our street construction projects, with our utility work and everything we've been doing, we've actually been averaging between $6 and $8 million a year in street work, and that's something that had not been done in the prior 20 years. So
easily 20 years.
So we're playing catch up, and we realize there's a lot of these areas that were built in the 60s and 70s that haven't had any work done. But you get up on like North 14th Street, that was basically a dirt road, and they're finishing that project up now. But we should never let those roads get as bad as what they've been getting. I mean, we should come up with some kind of a plan.
Well, we just didn't have the money, which is another way of saying we don't want to find the money, and we don't want to have to make the difficult decision to go to the people of Fort Dodge and say, listen, if you want better roads, we're going to have to pay for them.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to do that because, we had previous mayors, you can take them at their word that one mayor said, the best days of Fort Dodge are behind us, and we might as well acclimate ourselves to that. And another mayor said it's a great thing that Hormel and Iowa Beef left because we don't want unions in our town anymore. I mean, it's just What are you people talking about?
No.
You know, what in the hell are you people talking about?
You know, we've got a lot
And our
of
town
opportunity.
has gone downhill ever since.
Yeah.
Now we've tried to make some progress, and we have made a lot of progress in 10 years, and we still got them over in the corner going, crap. You know, everything's crap, and yeah, you people suck. And
Yeah, well, we're doing, I think we've got a plan. We've identified, I mean, we just got the new street reports out. They were presented Monday night, identifying the streets in the community. We know what streets are bad. Again, the problem is what do we do with them, and how do we approach them, and how do we pay for them? So that's
you
what
go.
we're working on that.
all right. Terry Manky's our guest.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. 2:33, the news and weather coming up.
As the nation's leader in pork production and pork exports, Iowa's pork producers are doing things right. It's their ethical and moral responsibility. Hog farmers keep their pigs safe and healthy, safeguard natural resources, protect public health, and build strong communities every day. Pork quality, responsible production, and continuous improvement are roles they take very seriously. Iowa's pork producers, producing safe, affordable food. Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
The Webster County pork producers remind you when it comes to protecting their family's health, Iowa's pig farmers are some of the most concerned people around. Safe, affordable, delicious, and nutritious pork can be served for your dinner tonight. Roasted, grilled, stewed, sautéed, stir-fried, broiled, kebabbed, sauced, dipped, sandwiched in your new recipes and your old recipes. Why not buy some pork today and serve it up tonight? This message brought to you by the Webster County pork producers, striving to serve people, pigs, and the planet.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Fire Department rescued a woman from a house fire this morning. Around 5:40 a.m., the fire was reported. Firefighters quickly arrived on the scene at 128 Avenue F. Upon arrival, they made entry through a window into a bedroom where they found a woman in the home. They were able to extract the woman from the burning house through the same window. The woman was taken to Unity Point Health Trinity Regional Medical Center due to smoke inhalation. There were 2 other people in the home who escaped prior to the fire department's arrival. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said, "It was great teamwork by the crew on scene to be able to make the rescue, and it shows how highly trained they are." The Fort Dodge Study Club will have a celebration event for the Lotus Community Project this Friday, November 1st, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The event will take place at Fort Frenzy's Cardiff Center here in Fort Dodge, and tickets are $25 per person. The event will feature live music by Ruthless Ruth as well as a silent auction. The event will feature heavy hors d'oeuvres as well. The victim in last night's shooting incident on the south side of Fort Dodge has now been identified as 19-year-old Taylon Sturts. The call came in around 7:40 last night that there were possible shots fired in the area of 14th Avenue South and South 23rd Street here in Fort Dodge. Officers arrived on scene and located Sturts, who had been shot. She was then taken to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center, then life-flighted to Des Moines in stable condition. No arrests have been made in the case, and police say there is little information being provided. The police do believe that the incident was not a random act. They feel those involved knew each other, and they believe that there are people with direct knowledge of the incident. Those individuals are encouraged to contact the police department with that information. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. December corn up 4.5 at $3.90 3/4. March up 3.5 at $3.99 1/2. May up 2.5 cents at $4.05 1/4. July up 1 3/4 at $4.10 1/2. November soybeans down 2 1/4 at $9.16. January down 3 cents at $9.30 1/2. March down 2 3/4 at $9.43 1/2. May down 2 3/4 at $9.55, and July down 3 cents at $9.65 1/4. December wheat closed down 2 1/4 at $5.09 1/4. Soybean meal down 80 cents a ton at $3.0220. October live cattle up 2 cents at $113.37. December up $1.47 at $180.30. October feeder cattle up 60 cents at $146.02. November up $2.40 at $147.87. December lean hogs up $145 at $65.77. February up $65 at $73.27. I am Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge is 237. First of all, in the weather, cloudy with a high of 34 today. Overnight, mostly cloudy with a low of 24. On Thursday, tomorrow, sunny with a high of 38. Friday, mostly cloudy with a high of 43. On Saturday, sunny with a high of 42. Sunday, sunny with a high of 47. On Monday, it'll be sunny with a high of 48. And on Tuesday, it'll be sunny with a high of 42 degrees. Right now in town, cloudy and 31 degrees. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Mary Ann Archer of Manson has passed away. Mary Ann Archer, 86 years old, has passed away. A private graveside service will be held at a later date at the Fort Logan National Cemetery in Denver, Colorado. Gunderson Funeral Home handling the arrangements. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Dr. Terry Menke is in the studio. We'll talk with Dr. Menke in just a moment. This is AM 1400 KVFD. The voice of Fort Dodge is 31 degrees.
A history of success means proven performance. But let's call performance what it is: profitability. And boosting yours, especially during a challenging season, takes more than just what the best seed can offer. That's why DeKalb brand corn is backed by exclusive genetics for consistent yield potential. Proven over a 100-year growing legacy, enhanced by a portfolio of elite inputs and products, and maximized using digitally enabled whole farm solutions like Climate Field View, the industry's leading digital farming platform, all to help your crops stand stronger, your bins fill faster, and your margins grow wider. Let nothing shake your perseverance. Ask your dealer how DeKalb can help you realize a future of performance. Climate Field View services provide estimates or recommendations and do not guarantee results. More information at climate.com/disclaimers. Always read and follow IRM where applicable, grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions.
Michael Devine, standing for Medicare and Social Security. After a lifetime of work, you deserve it. AM 1400 KVFD.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. Yeah, we're going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Joining me in that effort again today is City Councilman Dr. Terry Menke, and we have spoken about broadband, the possibility of city-owned broadband, which apparently we are on the precipice of absolute destruction as evil city employees are going to ruin us and take all our tax money. And it's amazing how easily you can scare people.
Yeah.
It is.
I personally don't think that, I think it's a good idea we proceed. I'm not really sure that the city itself, I don't know anybody in the city that would be capable of handling this, so I'm relying on their experts, and obviously this is a first step in a multi-step process. So once we get the approval, if we get the approval of the citizens, and we will move forward in the next steps and be able to offer the options that people will want to see.
You're not an expert. You should turn the entire project over to Allstott and Holder.
Well, that would be good. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, Kim doesn't do anything anyway.
He goes to a lot of meetings.
He goes to a lot of
meetings. He goes to a lot of meetings.
Yeah, he does.
Yes, he does. Well, we have a phone call. God, I got to ring.
Can you reach it?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. This is AM 1400 KVFD. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
How are you today?
I'm real good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I live on William Drive, just up the hill from the park down there. And on both sides of the street, there's a parking lane and a bike path. And on the west side of the street, there's a parking, or there's a bike lane. Can we get rid of that bike lane so we can park on the west side of the street?
You want to get rid of the bike lane on Williams Drive? Is that what you're asking?
Well, there's two of them there. There's one on either side of the street. Just getting rid of the one on the west side so that people on the west side can have park in front of their house.
Well, we can look at it. That bike lane is really confusing to me. When I go down Williams, I never did quite understand the logic behind that because it's, to me, it's stupid. But
I agree.
I will ask about that. I wasn't aware there was one on the west side of the street too. I guess I don't pay attention going that way, but I do know it's on the east side. So I will look at that and see what we can do.
And down at the bottom of the hill where they just did that new construction, there's a thing painted on the roadway that says the bike lane, putting the bikes up the hill. There's no bike lane down there going up the hill on the other side there.
Yeah. Well, again, that could be just part of the painting process. Maybe they didn't get around to it or ignored it or something, but I will check on that.
There's never been one there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
All right, well, thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, please feel free to call AM 1400 KVFD. That's 955-1400, or you can join us on YouTube. Go to 1400 KVFD. There we are. There's Terry, remarkable-looking human being, and, of course, I'm sitting there looking pretty comfortable.
Yeah. Chilled. I think
I'm chilled.
You're chilled. You put that. I saw that on your Facebook page. Some kind of a slam towards the council again.
Oh, was it a slam toward the council or a council?
We were in
person?
the middle of a presentation, and it
wasn't
that's
one
right.
where
we weren't interacting with them.
You guys looked comatose.
We were listening and paying
attention. Is that
attention.
what it was? Listening with your eyes closed?
Attention. Well, you roll in 10 minutes late. You missed the best part. You missed the meat of the program.
I had to work until 5.
Well,
I got over there as quickly as I could. And I'm glad I didn't miss nap time for the council people.
Well, we appreciate
nap time for the council people.
We had a full house Monday night. I'm sure you noticed that. We
yes,
had
you did.
Boy Scouts and
all kinds of things.
Yeah, there were some young ladies there from wanted to put a park out there in the Woodland area. That was the first I'd heard about that, but a lot of young mothers feel like it's inconvenient that they don't have something within walking distance of their houses out there in Woodlands. And
that's democracy in action, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they showed up, and I can understand that. You get to the park, you get to the aquatic center, and there's no bathrooms available, and you have young kids. It's a little bit of a challenge sometimes to get kids out and get them active, and then nature calls, and there aren't enough trees out there, I guess, to utilize. I don't know what's going on. But I think,
well, maybe little girls don't want to drop their pants in a public park.
Well, I can understand that. Yeah, I'm completely
have a little compassion.
Yeah, I have a little compassion. But again, talking about parks, we did have a change order for Olson Park. We're putting in some parking down there on the south side by the band shell. There's going to be some work on the drive down there. We have also looking at future plans for Olson Park to include a shelter house, hopefully, eventually. We're going to demo the old bathrooms over there, and there's going to be some progress. So, I know you've given up on Olson Park. It's been a very frustrating.
No, I haven't. I'm like an old alligator laying in the weeds.
You are. And, the pond is, the work is starting. I haven't been down there in the last week or so.
I'm still waiting for somebody on the Parks and Rec board to explain kicking the Friends of the Olson Park Zoo out of there, or Friends of Olson Park, rather, out of the picture.
Yeah, Pam Moeller is still down there. She is the remaining sole person. She still takes care of the deer on a daily basis. So she's
Jim Kramer was a member of the Friends.
I know.
And he rendered professional services for free
as an attorney
and worked tirelessly. And the Parks and Rec board booed him.
Yeah, well, it was a sad chapter.
I cornered one of those guys one day. He didn't really have an answer as to why
I don't know
happened.
if any of them do have the answer to that.
Well, apparently the Friends were getting in the way. Nobody said
of what.
Well, or of who.
I was going to say, we've been working hard on that, and again, it's been
getting in the way. God,
it's been a long, drawn-out process, but we're seeing some progress. Hopefully, we're going to see some more money sent to Olson Park. Again, the shelter house there would be very similar to Camp Winoki's shelter. If you've had a chance to get down there, that one was a WIC building, I believe.
I'd like to go down there. I didn't get it done when the weather was warm.
Oh, it's a beautiful facility down there.
It's where is it now? In Kennedy Park, right?
No, Camp Winoki's down south. It's the Des Moines River.
Okay.
Heading south down towards Otho, Colville
Okay.
area.
Or it's out of- it's out of the city
It's out of the
limits.
city limits. Yeah, it's Webster County's property.
Oh,
And
that's
you
right,
go
that's
back,
right,
and
that's
it's a road back there that it's really nice. It's a nice area to camp, and they're going to put in I think some kind of a boat area so you can canoe down and spend some time down there. But it's
that's
nice.
really roughing it down there.
Yeah, it's a little primitive right now, but they're
that's
working
okay.
on it. Yeah,
That's
but-
okay.
Yeah,
you
most
know, if they
people
just
like
get heat down there, I'd go down
you
there now.
live down there in a cardboard box.
No, I would.
Oh.
Not yet.
Well, if you don't have
not yet.
if you don't have Social Security to rely on, then you're probably going to be in trouble.
I know it. it. But
anyway,
you, being independently wealthy with
Yeah.
billions of dollars in your pocket,
Yeah.
I've always sat in admiration and really adoration as you've talked about how wealthy you are. Would you please give us about 5 or 10 minutes and tell us how rich you are?
I'm broke. But anyway, Monday
Donnie
night,
Decker stands in your shadow.
Tuesday night, they have an opioid seminar in City Hall. We invite you down to that from 7 to 9 o'clock. They're going to have several people from the Community Resources, YWCA. John Daniel will be there. John Daniel Jr. will be there. We'll have a police officer and some other people, a sheriff and hospital people. And they're going to talk about the epidemic, which is a real problem in this area. The opioid situation has become a real community crisis, and it's not only Fort Dodge, but it's throughout the country. And we'll take questions and answers and give an update on what the status is and how to approach that. And that'll be at City Council Chambers on Tuesday. So I invite you to show up for that. It should be an interesting discussion. You'll be there.
Is it true that Mr. Van Diest came to you for a loan?
No, that's not true.
No.
I actually heard him talk one time.
You heard him talk?
Yeah, at Iowa Central.
Where, at Crossroads or
no,
what?
At Iowa Central. Crossroads. Yeah. Well, you want to talk
The
about
mall.
The mall, yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of segueing.
Yeah, segue. Perfect. Well, the deadline for that, December 4th, I think, is the day.
Drop dead day.
Yeah, that's kind of like the drop dead day. There's a lot of activity going on. The developer that's looking at that is, proposed some plans that we've had a chance to kind of get a glimpse of. I think it's going to be an exciting project, potential development out there. A lot of money is going to be spent. I think you're going to find it's going to be a popular destination when it's done. And I haven't heard of any potential tenants or any potential, rebuilding or anything that's going on. But again, I think in the next few weeks, we have no choice but to hear a lot more. And I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to change the face of retail in Fort Dodge. My concern has been, we want to make sure that our downtown is protected too. So we want to make sure that our small businesses have an opportunity to succeed downtown.
AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. I would like to know, they've got that new street going by out by the dog shelter, and then right on the corner, there's a big pile of dirt that's been there for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And they got some stop signs so that the people have to stop, and you can't see one way because that new street's open, but they haven't got rid of that dirt. I wondered why.
Is that on 8th Avenue South again?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're still doing the construction. I don't know the status of the contractor down there. Again, I've already had one question about that, so I can ask them about that too. I know they are scrambling, trying to get a lot of work done before the ground gets too frozen, so I'm sure that dirt will not be there much longer. They're probably going to use that for backfill and some of the sidewalk construction.
Well, I understand that, but you'd think they would get that, dirt gone so people can see.
Yeah, I know. It's a matter of convenience for them, though. They probably think about what they're doing, not what you want. So, you know that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check on it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Our number is 515-955-1400. 515-955-1400. If you have a question or comment for Dr. Minke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Well, again, we had several things on the consent agenda that kind of blew through on Monday night. We've had some discussion in the past about financing for the mall. The urban renewal process, we have to go through phases in order to get the TIF money set aside. The TIF money was bumped up a little bit from $5.6 million to $20 million for the mall redevelopment project.
Whoa!
Yeah, and the reason that is simply because we don't know exactly what's going to happen out there, and rather than keep coming back to the table and asking for future increases, they kind of pulled this number out of their, estimated guess. It doesn't obligate us for anything. It just gives the ability to utilize the TIF money. And again, that TIF money is repaid by the taxes from the future development. So it's not a burden on the taxpayers, so to say.
Right.
I mean, obviously there'll be some costs and administrative costs and whatever that may be borne by the taxpayer, but the repayment of the TIF money, if any of it is used, and again, it's the decision of the developer if they want to access that, and they can utilize TIF money better than they can go to a bank and borrow it. It's also a little bit lower interest rate for them, so it's more economically feasible for a big developer to come in. But that project, again, the initial project was low, but now they bumped it.
All right, let's go to the phones. AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I hear from Councilmember Mickey that he's concerned about the downtown businesses, but we still have those parking meters.
I really can't understand you, sir. Can you speak into the receiver a little bit more clearly, please? Sorry, it's distorted for some reason.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess my point is Councilman Menke mentions that he's concerned about the downtown businesses, but we still have parking meters there that really hinder the businesses. My understanding is all the council members voted against it. Why are they still there?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up because at the council forum the other night, now Menke wasn't up there, but every single council candidate was opposed to downtown parking meters, but we still have them. What's going on there, Doctor?
Well, I can tell you within 24 hours I had a note from Main Street Director Chris Patrick addressing that situation. It has not been brought in front of the council yet as far as what we're going to do with the parking meters downtown. We do have the new passport system that we bought last summer that's going to be able to do license plate recognition. We had actually talked about the possibility of doing something over the Christmas shopping season to see if we could drive people downtown by eliminating parking or providing parking at no charge to them. So we have been discussing this. As far as I know, there has not been any proposal or any formal, movement towards eliminating the parking meters. But this has been discussed, for a long, long time. The mainstream people have been kind of back and forth on the parking meters. Initially, they wanted more in order to equalize the burden to everything downtown. And then the last few months, it's kind of switched back over to eliminating the parking meters. I guess the question is, what do you do with the parking lots? Do you continue to lease the parking lot spaces? Do you have people buy the monthly permits? I don't care one way or the other, to be honest with you. I've never understood why we have a big concern over parking, because I don't see it as a deterrent for downtown. When I go downtown, I always pay parking at my meetings and whatever, and I always keep change in my car. But as a business owner downtown, which I was for a number of years, parking meters have always been a concern. But I guess if it comes before the council, we'll probably vote to take them out, but it has not come before the council.
Would you?
What does it take? What does it take to get it before the council? Maybe you could be a hero for the community and bring it up yourself, Councilman.
Great.
Help that out.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
well, trust me, I'm part of the Main Street Board. I'm part of a lot of different groups that discuss this on a regular basis. And again, it's been a kind of a back and forth effort. Some days people want them and some days people don't. The problem we run into, and we've run into in the past, is that some people will not move their cars all day. But the advantage, I guess, of not having as many people downtown as we used to is that may not be as much of a problem. We do have employees that are paid out of the parking fund. So do you give them a Merry Christmas and say, hey, we don't need you anymore? So I mean, there's a lot of back decisions on this. It is a generator of income to the city. It does pay for maintenance and upkeep on some of our facilities. And so we have to address that revenue loss. If we take them out, we're going to have to address the loss. And looking at increasing our police force, school resource officers, and some different programs that we're looking at, do we want to give up $250,000 in income? I don't know.
So it sure sounds like you're just giving lip service to the small businesses in the downtown where you want to protect them, but you're not going to go forward with the actual thing that might help them out there.
I couldn't understand.
He says you're giving lip service to the idea of taking out parking meters and helping small businesses. I think he's, calling you names.
No, well, it could be. Well, again,
are you giving lip service to this? Because it sounds like it a little bit to me.
Like I said, the proposal hasn't come
forward. You could
forward.
bring it up before the council yourself and say, let's get this done.
Yeah, we could, but I
No,
haven't.
not we, you.
Yeah, I could.
Will you commit to do that the next
But
time?
again,
There's a council
we've spent a lot of money on upgrading our parking system, and we have not had an opportunity to utilize the new parking system yet. I would really like to see how the passport system is going to work for us before we take the meters out. You're still going to be monitored, and you're still going to have to pay fines. And I don't know if the 2-hour limit will be continued to be enforced in the downtown area.
It doesn't sound like you're in favor of taking the parking meters out at all.
Again, I think it's.
He hung up.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but I know from the revenue aspect of it, it's going to take a hit. We're going to lose revenue. We do not have any funding mechanism for our parking lots downtown. We still have to maintain those. We've got several of them that need to be repaired, and we, obviously need to figure out how we're going to pay for it.
AM 1400 KVFD, real quickly, you're on the air.
Yep, just got a quick question. You said that all these jobs and departments rely on the money from the parking meters. The parking meters didn't exist a couple of years ago. Why isn't those budgets switched over to parking meter funding?
Parking meters have been there for years.
Parking meters have not been downtown for years. They've been there for, 5 years? Maybe.
When Carmody was there was when they were brought in. They were there, they were gone, they were back.
They were gone for years and years and years because the merchants downtown were saying we can't have those things because they're hurting our customer base because of the Crossroads Mall.
But again, the parking meter fund was originally designed to fund the parking meter or parking lot improvements behind the Brass Monkey. On a couple.
I thought it was public safety or some damn.
No,
thing.
that's the speed
they've got
cars.
a new excuse every time, and whenever you're in a corner, you have to we're going to lose jobs of public employees if we end up removing them. And do it for the children will be the next argument. Come on.
No, I disagree with
Have a good
you.
one. Hold his feet to the fire, Mike. Don't let him out of this one.
Actually, it does. I was over at the County Board of Supervisors meeting the other day, and there was talk of a Dollar General store.
Yeah.
In Gowrie, going outside the city limits, and the woman from the Planning and Zoning Commission came on and said, well, we're concerned about the safety of children riding out of town on their bicycles. I knew it. I was waiting for it as well as I think most people were. Sooner or later, we're going to have the threat to children come through as a reason why we can't have a Dollar General in Gowrie.
I've been through a lot of conversations on parking. Like I said, I've been getting different messages from the same people over the last 2 or 3 years.
We got to go. Thank you, Terry.
You bet.
Straight talk on life and money. This is the Dave Ramsey Show on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Ground rules on Capitol Hill. Lisa Brady, Fox News. A House committee takes up the game plan for the ongoing impeachment probe. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on the Hill.
The House Rules Committee is considering a resolution laying the framework for the next phase of the Democratic-led impeachment inquiry.
This process determining whether he should be impeached will be open to the public view, just as it should be.
Committee Chairman Jim McGovern says the impeachment process will uphold the rule of law. Republican Rob Woodall says the Democrats' resolution denies the president due process.
The president has no ability to participate in any way in any of those committees.
And Democratic leaders say the president or his counsel will be afforded the ability to participate once the Judiciary Committee considers articles of impeachment. Lisa.
Jared, hurricane-force wind gusts spreading wildfires as crews do battle in both northern and southern California. One brush fire that broke out early today surrounding the Reagan Presidential Library on 3 sides. John Hybush is the library's executive director.
It's the closest this library's ever come to this kind of a danger, so this is really serious stuff, but so far they seem to be right on top of it.
That same fire also threatening thousands of homes, adding to tens of thousands of evacuations around the state. Another new fire in Riverside County, clearing out a healthcare facility and mobile home parks, as the fight also continues against larger fires near L.A. and in Sonoma County. A late rally on Wall Street, the Dow up 117 at the bell after the Fed's latest move on interest rates, the third rate cut of the year.
We took this step to help keep the U.S. economy strong in the face of global developments and to provide some insurance against ongoing risks.
Fed Chief Jay Powell citing a slowdown in global growth and ongoing trade disputes as two factors, but he's also signaling a possible pause in cuts for now, with continued strength in the U.S. labor market and consumer spending. America's listening. Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. I've got great news. Mortgage interest rates have dropped. So if buy shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson becomes the star witness at a trial related to climate change in his other role as the former head of ExxonMobil.
Tillerson took the stand this morning and was wrapped before lunch. He answered questions very clearly and very concisely, his point being that he did not lie or defraud investors in any way when it came to the impacts of climate change. This is a civil, not criminal trial. No jury inside the courthouse. The judge will make the decision and also decide what the damages will be, could potentially be as high as $1.6 billion. Right now, the experts saying there doesn't seem to be enough convincing evidence from the state that Exxon defrauded investors, but of course the trial has not wrapped just yet.
Fox's Jackie DeAngelis covering the trial in New York City. A briefing for both the House and the Senate today behind closed doors on the U.S. raid in Syria that killed the ISIS leader last weekend. The defense chief, the Joint Chiefs chairman, and the acting director of national intelligence, all part of that. A Mississippi father sent to prison for the death of his baby girl a decade ago gets a third trial.
Joshua Clark was serving a 40-year prison term until a Mississippi appeals court tossed out his second-degree murder conviction. Clark was initially sentenced to life behind bars for shaking his 4-month-old daughter to death back in 2008. But an appeal based on ineffective counsel led to a second trial in which a state medical expert testified that she thought the baby had been violently shaken, resulting in fatal brain damage. So the prison term was knocked down to 40 years. Now the appeals court says the state witness in the second trial did not provide support for her findings and ordered a third trial. Clark's lawyer claims the shaken baby syndrome theory was debunked some time ago through further research. Ken Duffy, Fox News.
Recapping the late rally for stocks, it's a new record close for the S&P. I'm Mrs. Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Fire Department rescued a woman from a house fire this morning. Around 5:40 a.m., the fire was reported. Firefighters quickly arrived on the scene at 128 Avenue F. Upon arrival, they made entry through a window into a bedroom where they found a woman in the home. They were able to extract the woman from the burning house through the same window. The woman was taken to Unity Point Health Trinity Regional Medical Center due to smoke inhalation. There were 2 other people in the home who escaped prior to the fire department's arrival. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said, "It was great teamwork by the crew on scene to be able to make the rescue, and it shows how highly trained they are." The Fort Dodge Study Club will have a celebration event for the Lotus Community Project this Friday, November 1st, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The event will take place at Fort Frenzy's Cardiff Center here in Fort Dodge, and tickets are $25 per person. The event will feature live music by Ruthless Ruth as well as a silent auction. The event will feature heavy hors d'oeuvres as well. The victim in last night's shooting incident on the south side of Fort Dodge has now been identified as 19-year-old Taylon Sturts. The call came in around 7:40 last night that there were possible shots fired in the area of 14th Avenue South and South 23rd Street here in Fort Dodge. Officers arrived on scene and located Sturts, who had been shot. She was then taken to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center, then life-flighted to Des Moines in stable condition. No arrests have been made in the case, and police say there is little information being provided. The police do believe that the incident was not a random act. They feel those involved knew each other, and they believe that there are people with direct knowledge of the incident. Those individuals are encouraged to contact the police department with that information. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 34. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected again tonight, 24. Clear skies and quiet tomorrow, highs around 38. Decreasing clouds Friday into Saturday with highs in the low 40s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 31.
Thrifty White Community Health Corner. Your local Thrifty White pharmacy is here to help make sense out of choosing a Medicare Part D plan during open enrollment. Plans change every year, so it's important to review your Medicare Part D options for next year, 2020. Stop by your local Thrifty White pharmacy anytime between now and December 7th for your free consultation. Yeah, it's free. Remember to bring your current Medicare card.
We are the land of the free because of the brave. Alpha Media and Graham Tire want to thank our local military men and women for their service. Our Wall of the Brave is currently displayed at Graham Tire of Fort Dodge. We invite you to stop out to Graham Tire and sign the wall as a show of support for our military. This special veterans promotion is sponsored by Graham Tire of Fort Dodge, Farm Nutrients, Advanced Heating and Cooling, River Valley Winery and Orchards, the Co-op Bar and Grill, and Alpha Media Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, standing for Medicare and Social Security. After a lifetime of work, you deserve it. AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and we're here to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Live, local, and relevant talk radio from the corner of 2nd Avenue North and 10th Street, right here in Fort Dodge. You can always join the program by calling 955-1400, 515-955-1400. You can watch us on YouTube. Go to 1400 KVFD on YouTube, and there we are. And, of course, I'm on Facebook at AM 1400 KVFD. We welcome to the program Chip Baltimore, a former state representative from Boone. Thank you for being here, Chip.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Well, I'm sorry you're not in the legislature anymore. Obviously, you're not. But
I am not. No. 8 years was long enough.
What I don't know if you remember, we met a couple of times in the past.
I do.
We talked briefly a couple of times.
I was always happy to talk with you.
Yeah, and I know that you're a decent guy, so I want to know why you're in bed with Satan here, and what does Satan look like naked, Chip?
Some people would say that would be me. But,
oh, come on, man.
No, I'm a senior fellow for the Taxpayers Protection Alliance.
Right.
It's a nonprofit organization, and national organization that is dedicated to the mission of trying to identify and shed some light on taxpayer abuse and government overspending or financial shenanigans, as we sometimes call it. And trying to make that apparent to relevant people and individuals and communities. And this organization is involved in a lot of different areas. It's not just broadband or government-owned internet, but it's they're involved in energy, healthcare, Medicare, all sorts of different things. And so we've got thousands of members all across the country that contribute to the cause. And my role here is to help educate people and citizens about what really goes on with the municipally owned broadband systems.
All right, before we move on, and I'll give you every opportunity
Sure.
to explain that, what's the source of funding for your organization, the Taxpayer Protection
Yeah,
Alliance?
like I said, we've got thousands of members all across the country, and I don't work in that particular department or area of this, but
Well, certainly there's a legal structure that holds the whole thing.
Yeah,
together.
it's a
you are an
nonprofit.
attorney.
It's a nonprofit.
Not time. Anyway, I suppose the list of donors or members, as you call them, would be online somewhere.
I honestly I have no idea. I mean,
Okay.
I've been told that there's just thousands of members out there that contribute various amounts. You can go on to the protectingtaxpayers.org website and donate if you'd like.
Okay.
Happy to make the pitch
Probably not
right
today.
here.
Yeah, go ahead and make the pitch, but I won't do that just quite today. Is it fair to say you're a lobbyist?
Well, it depends on how you want to define that.
Let me give you my definition.
Here,
May I give you
sure.
my definition? A
You
lobbyist
may.
is an advocate, and an advocate is interested in one thing, and that is getting the message of his or her employer or cause out there. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an advocate as far as I'm concerned. I'm an advocate in a way, and there are a number of advocates, all kinds of different advocates,
Right.
all kinds of lobbyists. I mean, as a former legislator, you know, there's that whole room out there is packed
Sure.
with lobbyists.
Yeah.
So could we call you a lobbyist?
Well, I have a different definition because of my time in the legislature of
All
what
right.
a lobbyist is. But I am certainly I'm certainly an advocate, and I'm not going to be shy that I'm here advocating for what I would tell you would be, the taxpayers and an advocacy for full disclosure.
Okay. I'm going to play you a clip of David Furyk, our city manager. Have you
Okay.
met David?
I think I've met him once or twice, but it's probably been a little while. So.
Okay, I'm going to play you a clip, and
Okay.
everybody, from the show I did with David Furyk yesterday.
Okay.
And bear with me, this is a little over 3 minutes. It's a long clip, but I think it strikes to the heart of the controversy, if you want to call it. But if it does pass, then we are going to proceed with finding out about city broadband.
Yes.
And, of course, after last night's council meeting where Curtis Dean and what's the other man's name? Curtis Dean and Ty something.
Todd. What was his like?
Something.
Kleikoff or
I
Kyloff?
can't remember.
I know,
It doesn't really make any difference. Anyway, Curtis Dean, a consultant with Smart Source Consulting, spelled it out for us, what's going to happen and pretty much how much the cost. And, of course, these lobbyists went freaking out, running around with their hair on fire, trying to scare everybody in Webster County. But the real question is, we're going to proceed, providing the vote is there, with revenue bonds to construct the project, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
If the council decides to construct the project as a public utility.
The voters have to approve it, and then
Yes.
the council has to do this.
Yes.
Approve it as a public utility.
Yes.
So we're going to define public utility here in just a minute, but right now we're going to settle this question. The anti-competition people are saying that there's a lot of places around the country that constructed broadband, used revenue bonds, and then the taxpayers were stuck with the bill. The taxpayers ultimately were stuck with the bill. With the revenue with the revenue bond plan that we have, will taxpayers in Fort Dodge, if we can't make our payments, be stuck with the cost or the payments?
No, and I'll explain
why?
why.
Okay,
well,
please
let's
do.
explain because first of all, you got to understand that the laws that allow cities to borrow money, whether that become taxable payments, tax payments, or revenue bonds, vary state to state. So there are things that the city of Fort Dodge can and can't do in Iowa that a town of similar size and structure in Illinois can do differently. For example, if you're a town the size of Fort Dodge, 25,000 in Illinois, you can issue general obligation bonds without a vote. You don't need a vote because you're called a home rule community. You
Right.
can go do that. In Iowa, the city of Fort Dodge or any home rule community, home rule really doesn't exist when it comes to municipal finance in Iowa. It's kind of a joke. Fort Dodge can only issue general obligations up to $700,000, except for a few purposes that the state has said those are essential purposes of which you can issue any amount of debt. So broadband network is not one of those essential purposes. So if the city wanted to put the taxpayers on the hook for this network, it requires a vote of the community and not this vote. This vote is only given permission to establish a network. That vote would require, say, okay, the city's going to issue whatever $1 million in bonds to be paid from whatever source, and they need to get taxpayer approval. Similarly, like the Roselle Rapids Aquatic Center, that had to go to a vote. It required a 60% vote to pass. Any vote in any general obligation bond vote requires a 60% majority. You know, the schools did some lately. So that's where we would be. So one is the council has no intention of paying these with revenue bonds or paying these with general obligation bonds as we're sitting here now. If they chose to, which I would highly doubt, we would go back to the voters and have to get permission to sell general obligation revenue bonds. We're not asking for permission to sell general obligation bonds now. We're asking for permission to have the ability to establish a network of which we would use revenue bonds for.
All right, that was David Ferrick on yesterday's show here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Right.
Chip Oldemore is our guest. So there you go, Chip. The argument's over. You and I should just go over the top hat for the rest of the afternoon, I guess. Would you think that, do you agree with David Ferrick's assessment?
In general, I agree with his assessment about general obligation bonds. What he's not telling you, and maybe it's because he's not being told, but according to a feasibility study done for the city of Decorah, in which Curtis Dean, the Smart Source consultant for Fort Dodge, his name appears on it. He's disclaimed credit for the content, but his name is on it. When you issue revenue bonds in Iowa for these projects, there's a thing called a debt service reserve fund that's established. So basically you borrow not just the cost of the project, but an additional year's worth of bond payments and put that additional year's worth into this debt service relief fund.
All right.
And what this report says, that's got Mr. Dean's name on it.
But he has denied.
He has denied, but a co-author, somebody wrote it, but it was submitted there. What that report says is that if that debt service relief fund has to be used because the broadband utility can't make its bond payments based upon the revenues, then the city is on the hook to replenish that fund. So the city ends up being on the hook, and that money has to come from somewhere. And the revenue bonds and that debt service relief fund are never voted on. They're never voted on by the voters because revenue bonds, unlike general obligation bonds, can be issued by the utilities without a public vote.
We don't have a utility yet, of course. We're trying to establish one.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
Well, Mr. Ferrick is pretty convinced that there will be no taxpayer obligation here.
Up front, that may very well be true. I've got a couple of points on that. Number one, if the city is ultimately the backstop under this debt service reserve fund for the revenue bonds, that should be something that Mr. Ferrick acknowledges, number one. And number two, the public should know that. The second point I would make is why are we bending over backwards for the city of Fort Dodge to find funds to do this project? For instance,
who's bending over backwards there?
Well, I would imagine that your water and sewer users who have paid their water bill and their sewer bill and funded the sewer fund probably wouldn't be too happy knowing that the sewer fund was used for the consulting agreement with
$22,000
with Mr. Dean.
But that's an issue for the voters of Fort Dodge, Chip. And
well, again,
we're always glad to welcome you to our town, but you don't live here.
I get that, but
why are you here?
Why are the sewer users being asked to help pay for the creation of a broadband utility?
I will agree that probably wasn't correct, but I would like to ask you again, who was employing you to be here?
The Taxpayer Protection Alliance.
Right, and who is they didn't just come out of nowhere to do this. Does MediaCom have any funding, or did MediaCom ask the Taxpayer Protection Alliance to intervene here?
Mr. Devine, the Taxpayer Protection Alliance has thousands of members across the country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they ask who the contributors are employed by. I don't know that.
But this is a business. The Taxpayer Protection Alliance is a business in Washington, D.C. MediaCom has its headquarters in New York.
Yes. And
they picked the Taxpayer Protection Alliance. And I'm not trying to be insulting, but I find it hard to believe that the Taxpayer Protection Alliance picked a little town in the middle of a cornfield in Iowa as a test case for some of its theories, and are employing you and apparently other staffers in an effort to keep broadband out of our town. Now, somebody has to pay for that, and somebody has to have a reason to pay for that. We live in the real world. I mean, it just makes sense. And you're just saying that all you know is that the Taxpayer Protection Alliance wanted this done with no connection that you're aware of to MediaCom at all. Is that your position?
I do not know what the source of funding is, in regards to this organization. That's not my role to do that.
Do you
and
know,
at this point in time, what we're really looking at is we're trying to put some sunshine on this. Because you can sit here and pick on me, and we've gone through the whole Facebook thing, and people can go off on that all day long. What that turns into is let's just shoot the messenger instead of listen to what the message is.
Well,
and I think that's the more relevant part that we need to talk about. But again, it's your show. But we can sit here and go over this all day long. I don't have any more information to give you.
No, but I think we need to ask a question about the messenger. The messenger has some sort of motive. You have some sort of motive. The Taxpayer Protection Alliance has some sort of motive.
Mr. Dean has some sort of motive. So do all the other consultants that are hired in this.
But
they're
not in the room. Just you are, Chip.
I know, and I've answered the question to the best of my ability.
Please answer it to me one more time. You know of no, and let me be clear on this. You know of no connection between MediaCom and the Taxpayer Protection Alliance other than MediaCom may be one of the many, many donors to Taxpayer Protection.
I am not aware of the identity of the donors of the Taxpayer Protection Alliance.
Okay. You are not aware at all. And the Taxpayer Protection Alliance contacted you, and because you do have a consulting firm.
I do.
Is that an advocacy or?
I do a lot of different things in a lot of different areas. So this is just one of several things that I consult for.
Okay. So the Taxpayer Protection Alliance contacted you and ask you to represent MediaCom's interests in Fort Dodge?
No, they did not ask me to represent MediaCom's. I'm not here on behalf of any company other than the Taxpayer Protection Alliance. I'm not here to promote or defend MediaCom. I'm not here to promote or defend Frontier or CenturyLink or Verizon or AT&T or any of those. I'm not here to promote their business. I'm not here to defend their business. Mm-hmm. What I'm here to do is to make sure that the citizens of Fort Dodge understand what they're getting themselves into and how these things work. Because we have seen in Iowa substantial structural problems, because in reality this is what we see. When these municipally owned broadband utilities are started and constructed, the only way that they're financially feasible is if they're heavily subsidized by something else. And the key in most Iowa communities is an electric utility.
Mm-hmm.
The electric utilities are kicking in sometimes up to 45% of the construction costs of a broadband utility, because the broadband utility revenues aren't enough to cover the full construction cost borrowings that are necessary. And I can give you a specific example, and I think it's a very relevant one. The city of Muscatine.
Mm-hmm.
City of Muscatine, at one time their telecommunications utility borrowed, I believe it was $35 million from their electric utility, and limped along trying to pay some of that back. But ultimately in 2014, the electric utility had to forgive $25 million of that debt. So the electric users in Muscatine swallowed $25 million of the cost to build and upgrade the broadband utility in Muscatine.
All right, we're going to come back to that. AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air with Chip Baltimore.
I just have one question about this debt service reserves he was talking about. If for some reason we do vote the telecom in, the telecom does fail in its first couple of years, and they have to use the debt service reserves, what happens if the taxpayers do not vote for a capital improvement, or for capital to refund that debt service reserves? So my understanding is they'll have to come to us for another vote again. What happens if we vote no to that then?
I think you only have to go to another vote if the city decides to borrow money by issuing general obligation bonds. If the city has, as has been pointed out to me, has reserve funds available, those would probably be available to replenish that debt service reserve fund without a vote.
You think it'll be around without another vote?
I'm not aware of a legal requirement that there would be another vote if there were funds other than proceeds of a general obligation bond.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We're being told something entirely different.
That's the whole point. And again, these are not my words, and this is not my analysis. This is the analysis of the broadband consultant that
Curtis Dean.
Well,
who has disavowed.
Curtis Dean, but there were two gentlemen on the report.
Mm-hmm.
Their names were on the report. Curtis Dean has disavowed having anything to do with the report, but still, it was a.
So we really can't use that as a source, Jeff.
Well, it's still a consultant.
I understand,
and it's still a feasibility report.
We can't say Curtis Dean is part of that.
Well, his name is on it,
Okay.
but if he didn't do it, then the other gentleman did. But it's still a consultant that has finally acknowledged exactly what this debt service reserve fund is about, and as this consultant puts it, a revenue bond in the telecommunications world is really a hybrid general obligation bond. It just doesn't require a vote by the people.
Okay. Curtis Dean, by the way, was at our city council meeting on Monday, and he said he's been involved in 26 of these efforts across Iowa, and all of them, the people in these towns seem to have been happy with the results. So he disavows the one in Decorah. Decorah, by the way, beautiful town. He disavows the one in Decorah, but he says there's 26 others that he's been a part of, and they were successful.
Yeah, one of the main reasons that Decorah declined to pursue construction of a broadband utility there was because they did not have, like Fort Dodge, an electric utility to help subsidize it. Mm-hmm. It's in the reports that are there, and I've got other reports by these consultants that say that the most successful way to build one in Iowa is if you leverage an electric utility. Again, these municipal broadband utilities don't survive on their own without subsidization from someone, because the costs to build it are simply too high. And unlike an electric utility or a water utility, you're entering into a competitive world.
Mm-hmm.
And like it or not, the consultants say you really want competition here. But the only way that these municipal broadband utilities survive is if they eliminate competition and have something akin to a monopoly. Because we're seeing that to be successful, the market share that these broadband utilities need in order to pay back all of the debt that they have to borrow, and this is only a fraction of it, it's only a part of it because it's being subsidized by other sources, but still, they still need market share 60 to 70% of the market in order to generate enough revenue to break even.
But Chip, that's exactly what Mediacom wants to do, get rid of competition. They have a franchise. They don't want to lose their exclusive franchise in Fort Dodge.
I'm not here to argue for Mediacom. Okay. What I am simply saying is that
Mediacom will benefit if your argument prevails, without a doubt.
I would say that the taxpayers of Fort Dodge would benefit.
We'll put the taxpayers at the top of the list, but right underneath the taxpayers, there would be Mediacom, and they would benefit hugely. Now, you're going to roll your eyes at me, but that's exactly what the situation is.
I am not a believer that having a government-subsidized competitor, which really isn't a competitor, is overall good for the citizens of Fort Dodge or really any community. That's not a business model that I believe in personally. And I think that the last thing that the proponents of this really want is disclosure about how these things are financed. You have 27,000 people here in Fort Dodge, something like that. And for those communities that have electricity users, do those electricity users, whether or not they decide to subscribe and use the services of a municipal broadband utility, do they appreciate or even know that part of their electric payments are going to finance a broadband utility? You know, again, when I look at this situation, and you've got a vote coming up on whether or not to give the city council authority to establish a broadband utility. Mm-hmm. Now, it finally came out this past Monday at the city council meeting that the full cost of this project is what, $33 million.
31.3. Would you hold that thought, please? Let's go to the phones. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. You're on the air with Chip Baltimore.
Yeah. Would you not agree, since you're an advocate for the taxpayer, that the best way for us to proceed would be to get the competition by having the city council looking into starting the
Are you saying that competition is a good thing? Is that
well,
something?
I'm definitely saying competition is a good thing. I'm just thinking if Chip Baltimore is looking out for the taxpayer, the best route for us to take would be having Mediacom compete against the city and offer something better.
Okay. Well, I do want to ask you about that real quick. You're a Republican. The free market works best with competition, right? That's what Republicans have always believed. At least I thought they did.
You know, if the city wants to establish a municipal broadband utility without subsidizing it, and just let it be truly part of the free market, knock yourselves out, because the free market will crush that.
How so?
It will crush it because it doesn't. The only way these things survive is when they get subsidized by either electric utility, or they're backed up with a debt service reserve fund that's backed by the city.
Well, how does Mediacom survive then?
Private capital.
Private capital. So they have private capital. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to find out how much they have. They must have a lot.
Well, from my time in the legislature, I was told by one of their real lobbyists, not me, that the Mediacom had some of the highest investment in the state.
All right.
In terms of funding.
You're just not going to give me that lobbyist thing, are you, Chip?
Nah.
All right.
I appreciate it, though.
Chip Baltimore is our guest. We'll be back.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Okay, it's 3:35. Yeah, we want to thank Chip Baltimore for being here, and he'll be back right after the news. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for that.
Iowa hog farmers have a lot to be proud of.
Proud of the quality products we put on tables around the world.
Proud of the strides we make to protect Iowa's natural resources.
Proud of the number of Iowans we're able to employ in safe workplaces.
Proud to protect and promote animal well-being in everything we do.
Iowa pork producers are proud because they do it right. And that's something all Iowans can take pride in.
Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
Iowa's pork producers work hard daily to produce safe, affordable food. Through the industry's We Care initiative, hog farmers are firmly committed to doing things right. That means keeping their pigs safe and healthy, safeguarding natural resources, protecting public health, and building strong communities. Producers fully understand the importance of pork quality, responsible production, and continuous improvement. It's the moral and ethical thing to do. Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
Meaningful memorialization starts when loved ones talk about what matters most.
Grandpa, this card asks, what was your favorite vacation?
Well, we didn't go on vacation when I was a kid, but our family did go fishing when we could. My dad could always find the best fishing holes, and he taught me how to clean the fish, too.
You mean you ate the fish you caught?
You bet.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most isn't just important today, it will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Fire Department rescued a woman from a house fire this morning. Around 5:40 a.m., the fire was reported. Firefighters quickly arrived on the scene at 128 Avenue F. Upon arrival, they made entry through a window into a bedroom where they found a woman in the home. They were able to extract the woman from the burning house through the same window. The woman was taken to Unity Point Health Trinity Regional Medical Center due to smoke inhalation. There were 2 other people in the home who escaped prior to the fire department's arrival. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said, "It was great teamwork by the crew on scene to be able to make the rescue, and it shows how highly trained they are." The Fort Dodge Study Club will have a celebration event for the Lotus Community Project this Friday, November 1st, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The event will take place at Fort Frenzy's Cardiff Center here in Fort Dodge, and tickets are $25 per person. The event will feature live music by Ruthless Ruth as well as a silent auction. The event will feature heavy hors d'oeuvres as well. The victim in last night's shooting incident on the south side of Fort Dodge has now been identified as 19-year-old Taylon Sturts. The call came in around 7:40 last night that there were possible shots fired in the area of 14th Avenue South and South 23rd Street here in Fort Dodge. Officers arrived on scene and located Sturts, who had been shot. She was then taken to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center, then life-flighted to Des Moines in stable condition. No arrests have been made in the case, and police say there is little information being provided. The police do believe that the incident was not a random act. They feel those involved knew each other, and they believe that there are people with direct knowledge of the incident. Those individuals are encouraged to contact the police department with that information. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 34. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected again tonight, 24. Clear skies and quiet tomorrow, highs around 38. Decreasing clouds Friday into Saturday with highs in the low 40s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 33.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. December corn up 4.5 at $3.90 3/4. March up 3.5 at $3.99 1/2. May up 2.5 cents at $4.05 1/4. July up 1 3/4 at $4.10 1/2. November soybeans down 2 1/4 at $9.16. January down 3 cents at $9.30 1/2. March down 2 3/4 at $9.43 1/2. May down 2 3/4 at $9.55, and July down 3 cents at $9.65 1/4. December wheat closed down 2 1/4 at $5.09 1/4. Soybean meal down 80 cents a ton at $3.0220. October live cattle up 2 cents at $113.37. December up $1.47 at $180.30. October feeder cattle up 60 cents at $146.02. November up $2.40 at $147.87. December lean hogs up $145 at $65.77. February up $65 at $73.27. I'm Dwayne Murley.
Get ready for zero-proof drinks, meat plant blends, unique types of flour, and West African cuisine in 2020. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. These are just some of the potential food trends in the coming year, according to Whole Foods Market. More than 50 market team members, including foragers, regional and global buyers, and culinary experts, put a list of 10 food-based trends on consumer preferences together. It forecasts trends for 2019, which included a rise in hemp products, fake meat snacks, and eco-friendly packaging. Nearing the top of the list for 2020 is people seeking more brands that support regenerative practices. Regenerative agriculture describes practices that improve soil health and biodiversity and can ultimately help combat climate change. Whole Foods Market also expects people to seek out different types of flours. The new year could bring more fruit and vegetable flours like banana flour and flour made from all things cauliflower. Foods from West Africa are also popping up. Tomatoes, onions, and chili peppers are the base for many West African dishes. Peanuts, ginger, and lemongrass are also popular. Last year saw a rise in plant-based products, and some butchers are getting in on the trend without going vegetarian. There could be an increase in meat-plant blends. Applegate, for example, is selling a beef burger with 30% plant-based ingredients. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Farming. It's genetics. It's what you are, who you are, what you're made of. It's agronomy, local knowledge of your land and having the tools to put the right product in the right place. It's built on service, with trust, grit, and determination. Because what it takes to make the best product is a lot like what it takes to make a farmer. Golden Harvest, rooted in genetics, agronomy, and service. Talk to your local Golden Harvest seed advisor or visit goldenharvestseeds.com. Some measure success by Italian suits, corner offices, and luxury yachts. Farmers measure success differently. It's breathing fresh country air, taking care of the people you love, and knowing how to measure success in your soybean acres? That's smart. With Credenz soybeans, you get a precise variety bred to fit your acres. And that Credenz variety comes with agronomic expertise and local insights from your BASF team. So plant your sign of success. Talk to your authorized Credenz retailer or local BASF seed advisor. Always read and follow label directions.
Are you almost 65 years old? Time flies, doesn't it? Well, Medicare enrollment is coming up, and you have some decisions to make. The problem? It can be totally confusing. Medicare Part A and Part B, Medigap Plan F versus Plan G. The alternatives practically run the alphabet. Pick the wrong thing, and you may pay more than you have to. Relax. Call eHealth. We have over 20 years of insurance experience and offer Medicare supplement plans from several of the largest insurance companies. Our licensed insurance agents are well equipped to offer solutions that may maximize your savings. We can help you with questions about coverage for your doctor, pharmacy, hospital, medical care, and prescription drug costs. We can also help you check if dental, vision, and hearing coverage are available. So, you can make a big fat guess or call eHealth now for a free consultation. There's no obligation to enroll, so call now. 800-MEDIGAP. 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 This is an insurance ad for eHealth, a licensed insurance agency not affiliated with Medicare or any government agency. This ad is not for Minnesota or Texas consumers.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and joining me today is Chip Baltimore, and we are talking broadband. Not surprisingly, Chip Chip's a lawyer from Boone and a former state representative, and he is representing the Taxpayer Protection Alliance. Am I saying the word correctly?
Yes.
The name correctly?
Yep.
Okay. Now, we encourage calls, but we want this is all business here today. Chip and I can go back and forth on Facebook, but that's Facebook. I'd like to think that this is an actual public utility here where we give valuable information to the public. I really do believe that. So if you have a question, fine. Just keep it straight. Don't say that you suck Divine or you suck Baltimore or any of those things. If you have a question, it's welcome, 955-1400. Now, just before the break, we were talking about the report that Curtis Dean and his partner, and I don't remember the man's name now.
H.R. Green, I think, was the one in Decorah.
Yeah, that was the one in Decorah. I think this guy's name was Todd, and I don't remember.
Oh, Todd Kielhoff.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. Anyway, Todd was here and Curtis Dean was here, and they mentioned that the broadband project, could cost between $22 million and $31.5 million. I mean, the numbers just become meaningless. They're so big. And the city people are convinced, once again, to kind of pick up where we left off. The city people are convinced that we can do this with revenue bonds with no threat to taxpayer money. You have argued, and did argue in the last segment, that that's wrong. What do you make of these numbers? 31.5 million, 22. Is that? I suppose you've looked at this in other towns and areas. You've referenced Decorah more than once. Is that about average, or?
Well, it's a big range. First of all, 22 million to 31 plus million. I can tell you that in Vinton, they just put theirs out to bid. Now Vinton is much smaller. It's probably between 20 and 25% the size of Fort Dodge, and theirs was 8.9 million. Or 8.5 million, I think is what the bids actually came back at. So 8.5 million for that. Charles City is looking at one. I think they're in the range of 12 to 12.5 million.
Charles City, about 9,000?
Charles, a little bit smaller than that, I believe. But so when you just do the extrapolation, I think that you're probably looking low to mid 30s. I wouldn't say that would be wholly inappropriate, but again, that's a big number. One of the things that I think is most troublesome here is how backwards this decision-making process is when it comes to putting it before the voters. Most decisions of this magnitude, when you're talking tens of millions of dollars, you're talking 30 to 35 million at least in terms of the project costs. The most responsible way to vote on something like this isn't to say, you know what, we're just going to authorize the city council to create this utility, then do the studies, then find a way to pay for it. And if you use revenue bonds, you don't have to come back to us for permission to issue those bonds because they don't require a vote, and it just gets put into place. That's, from a voting perspective, that is the least responsible way to do it. The most responsible way to do it is, because there's nothing stopping this. There's nothing that's stopping the city of Fort Dodge from doing the feasibility study, designing the network, coming up with an exact cost, and then putting, and not to mention not just the exact cost, but how it's going to be paid for and who's going to be paid for it down to the details, so that everybody knows exactly where it's going to come from,
In fairness,
and then put it up for a vote. But that's never how it's done. How it's always done is, are you dissatisfied with your internet service? If you are, let's go ahead and put this into a referendum to give the city council the authority to look into it.
Chip,
it's never voted on again.
I want you to tell me why they do that, because you know why they do that. You were a politician yourself for 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
Why do they do that? So they're not stuck with a study that nobody wants and costs $50,000. They'd rather not do that. They don't want to get blamed by the taxpayers for another costly study that went nowhere.
Which is why they asked for the authority to do it, and then they pay for the study. And if they decide, like in the case of Decorah, not to do it, which rarely happens, by the way, because usually they're so deep into it at that point that it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And they go ahead and do it anyway, thinking, well, it's never going to be a problem. Now, I asked the city of Muscatine whether or not it was a problem when they had to forgive $25 million of debt. But the point is this. This is not the way that a rational business makes its decisions. And the city and the city utility is a business.
Yeah, of course.
And for voters to be responsible, to have a responsible vote, put the details out there so they can analyze it themselves. Because once the voters, if the voters give the city the authority to create this broadband utility in Fort Dodge, and they go the revenue bond route,
mm-hmm.
there will never be another vote by the citizens of Fort Dodge to regulate this broadband utility.
And if it fails, we'll never get competition from Mediacom. Never. We won't get it until, if ever, it'll be long after I'm dead.
That is not the point. Is this: if you're supposed to be a responsible voter, what do we hear every election cycle? Be a responsible voter. Educate yourself about the issues. Dig into them. Understand exactly what you're voting on. Nobody here has a clue what they're voting on, because all they're doing is saying, let's just give the city council the authority to go do whatever they want to do.
I don't know if that's what it's saying, Chip. That might be a little bit of an overstatement.
Right now the estimate is 32 million to build this thing.
Right.
If the voters give the city council the authority to establish a broadband utility, and then they do all this work and spend a bunch of money, which we don't know where that's going to come from yet, but again, that might be helpful for people to know. But they do all this work, and it comes in at $50 million. There is nothing legally that stops the city council from going ahead with $50 million instead of $32 million. Nothing.
Okay. Well, I can't say that's wrong or right. I'll have to, and I'm not implying that you're not telling the truth.
All I'm saying is that's not a responsible vote to take, because the voters they lose all ability to be accountable for what happens with that broadband utility once they're basically just giving the city council a blank check. The city council has to pass things at resolution. The one I saw in Ford Dodge here, I mean, they put it on the consent agenda for crying out loud.
You're acting as if, and you're talking as if the city council and the mayor have something to gain by city broadband.
I'm not saying that they have anything to gain except the fact that.
So what are you saying about the city council? They don't understand, or what?
What I'm saying is, why doesn't the city council come up with the business plan first and put that before the voters, and let the voters decide with an informed vote, as opposed to we're just going to abdicate all discretion and all authority that the voters have. We're going to abdicate that to the city council and say that it's good enough.
We're having a full disclosure right here. I'm going to have Curtis Dean on the air with me tomorrow.
Good.
Good. And certainly I'll have somebody with your training explain debt service in relationship to revenue bonds. I mean, we're gonna fully vet the issue.
Good.
Have no fear.
Good. I appreciate that. I have publicized the report from Decorah about the debt service reserve fund. Nobody to date, and this has been done more than once, nobody to date has refuted that was true. And it's not my words, it's the words of the industry consultants, not mine.
AM 1400, good afternoon, you're on the air.
My only comment is, if you want to see a street to drive on, drive up North 29th Street.
You're talking about a street in town, sir? What about it?
It needs resurfacing.
Oh, you don't want to talk broadband. You want to talk about resurfacing your street. Well, that's fine, sir. I'll call up the mayor right after I'm off the air and tell him to get that done.
Hey, you mentioned streets. You brought it up.
We've talked streets. I've had this show 11 years. We've been talking streets the whole 11 years.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, pal. We have our people in town who are characters.
You know what? Hey, citizens have a lot of interest in their communities, and I will say this. I've been traveling to cities all over Iowa, in this effort, and people do care.
Yeah, they do.
And so when I come here and I say, look, this is. I don't think from a voting perspective it's responsible to ask for this vote at this stage without specifics. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the good people that, first of all, want this effort, or the city council who are trying to make their decisions. I'm not. I think that it's important in this state and in this community for voters to be informed. I've always felt that whether I was running for the legislature or whether it's for the school board or whatever it happens to be, I think it's important for voters to be informed. And in this particular case, there's just not enough information here for the voters to make a responsible vote for something that could run $30, $40 million. I think that's just a challenge.
Let's go to the phones. AM 1400, you're on the air.
What it sounds like to me is what you're going to do is vote for the broadband, the fiber, and then run out of money to pay for it after probably 3, 4, maybe 5 years. And then MediaCom's going to come in and buy it for pennies on the dollar.
Well, that would be a benefit to MediaCom. I thought you were going to tell me they were going to come and take all your tax money. That's what I was going to suggest, that if we run short, we just come down to your house and get the money.
Makes a great point. I know this is another state, but Lake County, Minnesota, spent $90 million to build a municipal broadband system up there, and they used a combination of federal grants and federal funds and local taxpayer dollars. But really, what they did was they spent close to $90 million for that. Couldn't make it work. Ended up selling it just end of 2018 for $8.3 million, I think. It's like 9 cents on the dollar. So is that a possibility in this community or any of these communities that you borrow a bunch of money, it doesn't work, and you have to turn around and sell it? Yes, it is. If I were a lobbyist for MediaCom, Michael,
All right, I'm listening.
If I were, this is what I'd probably be doing. You guys knock yourselves out. Build all of these things that you want everywhere.
All right.
At taxpayer subsidized, electric utility subsidize the heck out of these things and get them in the ground. And then when they fail, I'd come in and buy them all up for pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
If I were a Mediacom or Frontier or CenturyLink or Verizon or pick your big company, because at that point I'd be getting a fiber system for, like I said, pennies on the dollar. It's a possibility. It could happen. It happened in Lake County, Minnesota. I'm sure when they put that thing in, they didn't think it was going to fail. I'm sure that when Muscatine put their system in, they didn't think that they were going to have to forgive $25 million, but they sure did.
Algona and Spencer have their own system. They have their own electric utilities.
Right.
And I know people in both those towns. I grew up in Algona.
Right.
They love it. They love their municipal broadband, and they love their that the utilities are locally owned.
Yeah, I would venture a guess that if the electric utility wasn't there, they wouldn't have it.
Maybe that is.
And that's also part of the reason why they can even be competitive in terms of price. We hear about faster, cheaper, all this stuff that the municipal owned broadband systems can provide. There's a reason why it's cheaper. It's because it's being subsidized by the electric utilities.
That works for me.
Because it doesn't work for the electricity ratepayer, the person that's paying for electricity that doesn't get broadband from the municipality.
Chip, we're not getting good service from Mediacom. That's what started this whole ball rolling. Mediacom has been inflexible. They're not going to change, so we're going to have to change. That's the bottom line here.
Well, that's got to be a decision that is made by the community. Like I said, I'm not here to defend or promote any particular company, but this is not how important 8-figure decisions are generally made.
Chip Baltimore has been our guest. Chip, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming in.
I always appreciate talking to you, Mike.
All right, man. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. News is next.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes,
This is Dave Graveline. Be sure to listen to Into Tomorrow right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Fierce winds fanning the flames. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. More fires popping up around Southern California. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal is live in L.A.
Lisa, fire started in Riverside, east of Los Angeles. Mandatory evacuations are in effect. Roughly 7,000 homes are under evacuation orders in Ventura County, where fires threatening the Reagan Presidential Library. Both President Reagan and First Lady Nancy Reagan are buried on that property.
We were able to protect the Reagan Library. Currently, fire moved around the perimeter of the Reagan Library, and we had successful stands up there on protecting the library and the infrastructure around the facility.
That's Incident Commander Chad Cook. Some areas of Ventura County lost electricity in a planned Southern California Edison power shutoff. Winds have been recorded at nearly 80 miles an hour in certain spots. Lisa.
Thanks, Jessica. A social media split. Twitter just announcing it's dropping all political ads. The ban applies to candidates and groups. CEO Jack Dorsey tweeting that political message reach should be earned, not bought. Facebook has faced a backlash for deciding not to fact-check any political ads. The candidates are coming in New Hampshire. Chance for Mayor Pete Buttigieg becoming the first major candidate to file for the first in the nation primary ballot today.
I'm offering you a presidency where when you look at the news every day and see the White House, your blood pressure goes down a little bit instead of up through the roof.
Fellow Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders plans to file tomorrow. The deadline is November 15th. The World Series champions will be crowned tonight, Game 7 in Houston, where Astros fans hope for their second title in 3 years.
Everybody's kind of got that magic in the air tonight, so I mean, I'm nervous, but excited nervous.
The Washington Nationals, in their first ever World Series, forced a Game 7 with a win in Houston last night. Another World Series first. All 6 games so far have been won by the visiting team. America is listening to Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. I've got great news. Mortgage interest rates have dropped. So if you're thinking about buying a home, right now is the time to lock that low rate, even before you find the home of your dreams. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
President Trump tweeting again today that the impeachment probe is a witch hunt. For now, closed-door testimony continues. The 2 latest witnesses, 2 State Department experts on Ukraine, appearing before 3 House committees. The Fed cuts a key interest rate for the 3rd time this year, a quarter-point reduction.
The policy adjustments we've made since last year are providing, and will continue to provide, meaningful support to the economy. We believe that monetary policy is in a good place.
Fed Chief Jay Powell offering encouraging words on the U.S. job market and consumer spending, while warning again of ongoing risks, including trade disputes and a global slowdown, signaling overall they may wait and see before making any more cuts. The S&P closing at a new record high today, 3047. The Dow up 115. After the closing bell, Facebook reporting solid third-quarter earnings, up 19% from a year ago, despite ongoing regulatory threats, privacy, and security concerns. Apple out with its earnings for the 4th quarter of the fiscal year, beating the street on earnings per share and revenue. Actor and comedian John Witherspoon has died. Best known as Pops in the Wayans Brothers TV show and Ice Cube's father in the Friday film series.
His family writing on social media, he was a legend in the entertainment industry and a father figure to all who watched him over the years. We love you, Pops, always and forever. Many in the entertainment community tweeting out condolences. Ice Cube writing, "Life won't be as funny without him." Witherspoon's career began in the 70s.
See, when you saw me, you saw the mushroom shirt. Mushroom shirt. Bang, mushroom shirt. But see, you can't stop with the mushroom shirt. You gotta go on. I'd have stopped that.
And he was in several Eddie Murphy films, including Boomerang and Vampire in Brooklyn. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
John Witherspoon was 77. Just getting word that subtropical storm Rebecca has formed. It's in the North Atlantic, currently posing no threat to land. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Fire Department rescued a woman from a house fire this morning. Around 5:40 a.m., the fire was reported. Firefighters quickly arrived on the scene at 128 Avenue F. Upon arrival, they made entry through a window into a bedroom where they found a woman in the home. They were able to extract the woman from the burning house through the same window. The woman was taken to Unity Point Health Trinity Regional Medical Center due to smoke inhalation. There were 2 other people in the home who escaped prior to the fire department's arrival. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said, "It was great teamwork by the crew on scene to be able to make the rescue, and it shows how highly trained they are." The Fort Dodge Study Club will have a celebration event for the Lotus Community Project this Friday, November 1st, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The event will take place at Fort Frenzy's Cardiff Center here in Fort Dodge, and tickets are $25 per person. The event will feature live music by Ruthless Ruth as well as a silent auction. The event will feature heavy hors d'oeuvres as well. The victim in last night's shooting incident on the south side of Fort Dodge has now been identified as 19-year-old Taylon Sturts. The call came in around 7:40 last night that there were possible shots fired in the area of 14th Avenue South and South 23rd Street here in Fort Dodge. Officers arrived on scene and located Sturts, who had been shot. She was then taken to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center, then life-flighted to Des Moines in stable condition. No arrests have been made in the case, and police say there is little information being provided. The police do believe that the incident was not a random act. They feel those involved knew each other, and they believe that there are people with direct knowledge of the incident. Those individuals are encouraged to contact the police department with that information. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Cloudy skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 34. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected again tonight, 24. Clear skies and quiet tomorrow, highs around 38. Decreasing clouds Friday into Saturday with highs in the low 40s. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 33.
Stop into Menards and save big money on all of your home improvement needs. Right now, all stock Kidde home safety products are on sale. Keep your home protected from common household fires with a general use fire extinguisher. Get it for just $12.99. The photoelectric smoke alarm has a worry-free 10-year sealed-in lithium battery. On sale for only $14.99. These prices are good through Saturday, November 9th. Now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about, and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes,
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine, and of course, we're going to tell the truth, make it matter, and we're never going to be boring. Joining us in that effort again today is Dr. Dean Stanzel, an economist with Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. Hi, Dean.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm great. Please, Dr. Stanzel is a member of the O'Neill Center at SMU. Please explain the O'Neill Center.
Oh, sure. The O'Neill Center for Global Markets and Freedom is in the Cox Business School at SMU in Dallas, and it was established by one of our alums, William O'Neill, who also is the founder of Investors Business Daily newspaper. And we study the impact of competitive market forces on freedom and prosperity in the global economy. Our website is o'neillcenter.org. That's spelled O-N-E-I-L.
Dr. Stanzel, researcher that he is, always provides us with plenty of material here to talk about, and today is no exception. Thank God for that, because I usually show up at the last second and just turn on the microphone.
That's a fun day.
And I had a great weekend. I hope you did too. But
yeah.
But we're having a bit of a broadband controversy here in our town, and of course the people who want to stay with current broadband represent a rather large telecom company by the name of Mediacom. There are others who would like to see Mediacom get a little bit of competition in the form of a city-owned broadband. This has given rise to one of the more ridiculous phrases I've heard recently: government-owned broadband. Now, no doubt, government does own some broadband, and they use it for purposes that governments everywhere need to use it for. But in this case, it's citizens who are dissatisfied with a franchise agent who has no competition, and we'd like a little competition, believing, as you do, Dr. Stanzel, at least I believe you do, that competition always improves things. So we are trying to give Mediacom some competition. We're not trying to kick Mediacom out of town or anything like that. And yes, this would be the city taxpayers probably sponsoring competition to a private business, but this business, again, has no competition due to a state ruling from a few years ago. So it's this. We're hardly dealing with free form, real down to earth free market economics here. We're dealing with two rather large, well, at least one large competitor, and there is fear in our town that if city-owned broadband does not pan out, that the taxpayers will be somehow hit with a bill. Dr. Stanzel has sent me a piece from Reason Foundation, and it's called "Reducing Red Tape Would Expand Rural Access to High-Speed Broadband." Now, this is very interesting, something I haven't thought of in the past. And could you explain this piece to us, Dr. Stanzel?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to start off on a more basic level because just based on what you posted on your Facebook about this issue, I think there's some important contributions that just the basic economics can make to this discussion. So what economic theory tends to what most economists tend to agree is that things that we call public goods, and I'll define that briefly here in a minute. Public goods are things that most economists agree that private markets may not provide efficiently or at all. So there needs to be some sort of community, voluntary, or some sort of approach to come together and make those goods be provided. So public goods have two characteristics. I'll try not to get too far into the weeds here. Number one, they're non-rival. Okay, that just means that when you consume it, there's just as much left for me. Like one of your listeners turns on their radio, well, there's just as much signal left for the other listeners that have it turned on at the same time. So that's non-rival, and that's very unusual if you think about most things we consume. Most things aren't like that. Most things are rival. If you go to the store and buy the last bag of Cheetos, well, I'll be very angry because I go and there's no Cheetos left, right? So most things are rival. All right, so you've got non-rival, and cable TV, Wi-Fi, over-the-air radio signals. These are examples of goods that are non-rival. The second one is a more problematic one that's called non-excludable, meaning that it's difficult, or at least very costly, to exclude non-payers from consuming it. Now, if you think back 100 years ago to when radio first became a kind of a viable commercial entity, in a sense, radio was non-excludable. It would have been very difficult 100 years ago to charge people a price to listen to your radio show. And even today, you could argue that with radio signals, well, while it's not impossible, right, we have satellite subscription radio, those guys were losing money, and one of them had to buy the other one out in order to be profitable. So I would argue that it's difficult for radio broadcasters to charge a price for their product. But some brilliant entrepreneur 100 years ago or whenever it was figured out how to make it happen. And you know very well what the answer is. They figured out we can charge local businesses to provide commercials on our radio station, basically buying access to the ears of our listeners, and that then enables the radio broadcaster to cover their costs, which they couldn't cover by charging the customers directly.
Certainly.
And so radio, in a sense, you could say is a public good, but commercial industry figured out how to provide it. But when it comes to cable TV or Wi-Fi, that's not difficult to charge access for. It's not difficult to exclude non-payers from consuming. And so it doesn't really fit the category of a public good, which traditionally is where economics would say, okay, well, maybe government has a role here. So my broader point is that I don't think government has a role here. And when you think about it, and I know you believe in pretty small government, if you think about what are the list of things that you think we should have to pay taxes to provide and to allow government to have authority over, I wouldn't think this would be very far up the list for most people.
Well,
and so I think it's a issue of whether this is a legitimate area for government activity, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you for your input on that, because we got a lot to get to here. I will say that the Internet has become indispensable, as you know, and it will continue to play a larger part in our lives. So as far as a public utility, that's kind of what we're thinking, that we need in our rural area, and we don't have it now, faster and reliable internet. If we intend to be a growing area, and I'll spare you all the details, but we have reason to believe that other companies will come here, ag-related businesses, and they require these sorts of services. Now, we do have a faster type of internet that's available to businesses now. But really, what we have is little towns in our area, like 400, population of 400, have fiber optics, and we don't. We don't. All we have is a line to the house and not fiber optics, and it's just caused too many problems. But anyway, that's our thinking anyway on public utility.
So on the reason article you mentioned just briefly, that there are some FCC restrictions on the installation of what they call small cells, which are these backpack-sized units that are a lot more flexible than the traditional tall towers. And there's just some restrictions on where those can be installed and a review process and that sort of thing that tends to result in no change to the initial proposal because these things are so small, no one really has any objections. And so there are some things like that could be gotten out of the way that would make it a much quicker process for these things to be rolled out and to expand access, in particular in the rural, less populated areas like you're talking about.
All right. Dr. Dean Stanzel is our guest. He is an economist from Southern Methodist University and a libertarian. Let's talk a couple of your favorite people here, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Bernie especially. And I always like an honest man. And Bernie's an honest man as far as I'm concerned. He is talking about Medicare for all, and he is naming what he thinks is the cost, $3 trillion. Now, Elizabeth Warren is tap dancing, frankly. She hasn't revealed the cost of her program. It's kind of like, well, let's pass it, and then I'll tell you about what it costs later. You know? I don't think we're going to do that, so Elizabeth is going to have to come clean sooner or later. In this Philadelphia Inquirer article, the columnist states that there's no such thing as universal health care. What do we have in the European countries then if we don't have universal health care?
Yeah, I have a feeling they didn't write the headline. Sometimes the headline gets a little misleading in some ways. I think what they're playing on the term "there's no such thing as a free lunch," so there's no such thing as free universal health care. And they go through in this article, and this is by a couple economists, friends of mine actually. One of them is at Duquesne University, and the other's out in Arizona. But they go through and they detail all of the estimates from, or a lot of the estimates from, even from left-leaning groups like the Urban Institute, on the idea of Medicare for all, which essentially is just that, universal health care. And Urban Institute said it would be an extra $3.4 trillion in government spending per year, and that's around 100% of 2019 federal receipts. So in other words, you'd have to double the amount of revenue we're bringing in, and I like the way you framed it in the sense that I just don't think that that Warren in particular is being intellectually honest about the cost of the stuff she's throwing around proposals for. Whereas
no, she isn't. Bernie,
on the other hand, is being a little more honest about it and acknowledging, hey, we're going to have to raise taxes. And by the way, I think he kind of went down in the polls after he started saying that.
I think he probably did. Yeah, that's we do lose. We do lose any concept of these big numbers anymore. Oh, here's the military budget, $10 billion or something for one base. I mean, it's just staggering. These things lost their meaning.
Well, it is. And look, people are busy with their everyday lives. They don't have time or interest to get deep into the weeds on details about policy proposals. But what we do want, all of us, I think, is human nature. We'd like some free stuff, right? And when you've got someone like Elizabeth Warren saying, here's all the stuff I'm going to do for you, and no discussion or no thought of how, it's actually going to cost you twice as much revenue every year, just for the Medicare for all, leave aside all the other things she's talking about giving away for free. I mean, there's a fundamental dishonesty to the discussion, and one of the things we had talked about at the end last week was the cost of health care in the U.S. And, why is it so much higher, and one of the proposals for dealing with that here is very costly in itself, and so I think there's a fundamental disconnect there.
What is your fear with universal health care?
One of the big problems that they have in countries like Canada and the UK is the long waits that you have to have. You basically have a triage process, which is fundamentally the only way to do it, I suppose. But you end up with a lot of long delays in getting care. One of the articles from the Washington Examiner I sent you talks in detail about this, about the median wait for treatment in Canada last year for treatment from a specialist following referral was 20 weeks. And in certain provinces, New Brunswick, for example, it was 45 weeks, almost a whole year, to get a referral from a general practitioner to a specialist. I mean, that's sure we have long waits here, and once you show up to the office, you usually sit there and wait in the waiting room for an hour. But it's nothing like 20, 45 weeks. I mean, and that, look, that can be a life or death situation. There could be something growing inside of you, a cancer or something that they don't. If you get delayed for 20 weeks, it may be too late. And so I'm concerned about the quality of care and essentially the delays in treatment that can have fatal consequences.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was one of the people who was on the air and advocated loudly 20 years ago that we drop the word free in advertising. In years past, you'd buy our product and then you'll get this free. And I would always come on the air right afterward and say, there's nothing in the world that is free. There is absolutely nothing in the world that is free. Somebody somewhere paid for it, and they paid for it with labor or ability or whatever. But there's no such thing as free. Let us recognize that.
You sound like the Grinch.
I don't mean to. I'm going to buy my grandkids Christmas presents, and they're free, but I paid for it.
Right, free to them, yeah.
All right, Dan Mitchell's a friend of yours. He is he's also an economist, and he has talked about Elizabeth Warren's determination and refusal to tell her what her plans would require. Pete Buttigieg, I believe, he's supposedly now he fell from favor. He was this young guy and he was gay, and that touches all the liberals' hot buttons. Oh my God, this is wonderful! A gay, educated member of the U.S. military and all these things. But Pete Buttigieg has said that there is no plan has been laid out to explain how a multi-trillion-dollar hole in this Medicare for All plan that Senator Warren is putting forward is supposed to get filled. Other Democrats have pointed that out as well. Now, Klobuchar and Buttigieg, and Biden, for that matter, have immediately been identified as corporate Democrats, of course. So this is more politics than economics, I think. They are quite literally promising something big and then saying, wait until we pass it and then we'll tell you how much it costs. That means you're about to get smacked in the face, by the way.
Right. And one thing that Senator Warren has been very clear on, and I see a quote here in a Wall Street Journal article that was in that linked from the one you just mentioned, that costs, we're going to pay for this, the costs are going to go up for the wealthy, they're going to go up for big corporations, they will not go up for middle-class families. And that's one of the things that Dan was pointing out in this piece, is that once you start doing the math with how much tax revenue you could actually collect from, quote-unquote, the wealthy, with things like Senator Warren's wealth tax and the increases in corporate income tax and the income tax rate, it's just not enough money there. So the point is to fill that $32 trillion, that's over 10 years, but still to fill that huge spending burden, you're going to have to raise taxes on people who essentially are in the middle class, because there's a big group of them, and that's where the money is. There isn't enough money at the top to pay for this.
No, there isn't. There absolutely. I mean, everyone knows that the real tax revenue stream comes from the vast middle class. That's why the United States has accepted capitalism and prospered because of it, because we have a vast middle class. That's why Mexico is a failed state, where you have these places in Mexico City, and I've actually seen them, where there's mansions with swimming pools, unbelievable wealth, and a mile away there's the worst hovels on earth. It's terrible.
I was was down there for a conference last year, and they took us in a it wasn't a limousine, but a hired car or whatever to this from our hotel to this fancy house that we did. We passed by a bunch of neighborhoods that were like, okay, this is very different, and then all of a sudden you're in this beautiful place behind a gate and all this. And
Oh, yes, they have armed guards, everything. I mean,
I mean, well, you have to because property rights aren't protected very well over there. But you're right. If you think about it, and one of the ways that Dan Mitchell puts it here is that the solutions that Warren and Sanders are proposing to pay for this stuff is essentially, as he puts it, a smorgasbord of French-style tax ideas. Because two of Warren's advisors that have been in kind of hot water over some of their questionable projections, data estimates, are both French, by the way. And Piketty, who wrote this great, widely reviewed book a couple of years ago, is also a French economist. Not that there's anything wrong with being French, but if you look at France's economic policies, we probably don't want to model ourselves after them.
well, we should have just. I think we should just invade France and defeat them. And well, maybe I'm going too far.
Now.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our guest is Dr. Dean Stanzel, and he is an economist at Southern Methodist University. We both go a little far here every now and then. So Dr. Stanzel has sent me a piece that essentially says Americans are addicted to health care. What, health care is some sort of addiction problem?
Health insurance.
Health insurance.
An important distinction.
Okay, so in case I get sick, which I no doubt will, or in case we all get sick or break a leg or something, we shouldn't give in to our addiction and buy health insurance before it happens, or what?
So I'm sure the headline was tongue-in-cheek to a certain extent, but it was written by a direct primary care physician in Massachusetts, and direct primary care is one of the proposed ways to help reduce the explosive rise in healthcare costs. But his point was simply that, and he had a nice anecdote, which I assume it's true, about a patient of his who they were doing some lab tests, and he told her, it'll be $20 cash if you pay us directly. And this patient, of course, said, what if I use insurance? And he said, well, I don't have any idea if you have a high deductible plan, especially, but I can guarantee it'll be more than $20. And they're like, okay, let's use insurance. So this is his illustration in some ways, anecdotally, of how we as patients feel like, we paid for this. We want to make sure we use it, but it ends up costing $400. And not to the patient directly, but that's how much money changed hands when it could have been just $20. And so we use these health insurance plans as prepaid health care spending, as opposed to what insurance is supposed to do, Michael, like car insurance, home insurance. We just had a little incident with our car where the repair was less than the deductible, so we shopped around and we paid out of pocket, but it wasn't a catastrophic thing. It was a couple $100, but the same thing should. I mean, that's insurance is simply a financial instrument designed to help protect us against catastrophic losses, and we're using it in such a different way that really doesn't make any sense. And I think that's his point, is that we need to get back to a system where insurance pays for catastrophic things. Everything else is something we pay for ourselves, because then customers are more aware of the price. It's this third-party payer thing, like this example of this patient. They don't care how much it costs because they're not paying, right? You pay your copay and you move on, and you start looking at the bills and adding up the numbers. Those bills come due eventually in the form of higher premiums.
All right, Dr. Dean Stanzel has been our guest. Dr. Stanzel is an economist at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, and he is a member of the O'Neill Center. Dean, thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
Country Hearth Breads would like to offer a toast to breakfast. Their new breakfast breads are baked with simple, natural ingredients like fresh apples and cinnamon, cranberries and wild rice, real maple syrup, and sweet, tangy blueberries. They're great right out of the package, but with their slightly chewy texture, they're even better toasted. No matter how you like yours, Country Hearth breakfast breads are the naturally delicious choice.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD news update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Fire Department rescued a woman from a house fire this morning. Around 5:40 a.m., the fire was reported. Firefighters quickly arrived on the scene at 128 Avenue F. Upon arrival, they made entry through a window into a bedroom where they found a woman in the home. They were able to extract the woman from the burning house through the same window. The woman was taken to Unity Point Health Trinity Regional Medical Center due to smoke inhalation. There were 2 other people in the home who escaped prior to the fire department's arrival. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said it was great teamwork by the crew on scene to be able to make the rescue, and it shows how highly trained they are. The Fort Dodge Study Club will have a celebration event for the Lotus Community Project this Friday, November 1st, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The event will take place at Fort Frenzy's Cardiff Center here in Fort Dodge, and tickets are $25 per person. The event will feature live music by Ruthless Ruth as well as a silent auction. The event will feature heavy hors d'oeuvres as well. The victim in last night's shooting incident on the south side of Fort Dodge has now been identified as 19-year-old Taylon Sturts. The call came in around 7:40 last night that there were possible shots fired in the area of 14th Avenue South and South 23rd Street here in Fort Dodge. Officers arrived on scene and located Sturts, who had been shot. She was then taken to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center, then life-flighted to Des Moines in stable condition. No arrests have been made in the case, and police say there is little information being provided. The police do believe that the incident was not a random act. They feel those involved knew each other, and they believe that there are people with direct knowledge of the incident. Those individuals are encouraged to contact the police department with that information. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. December corn up 4.5 at $3.90 3/4. March up 3.5 at $3.99 1/2. May up 2.5 cents at $4.05 1/4. July up 1 3/4 at $4.10 1/2. November soybeans down 2 1/4 at $9.16. January down 3 cents at $9.30 1/2. March down 2 3/4 at $9.43 1/2. May down 2 3/4 at $9.55, and July down 3 cents at $9.65 1/4. December wheat closed down 2 1/4 at $5.09 1/4. Soybean meal down 80 cents a ton at $3.0220. October live cattle up 2 cents at $113.37. December up 147 at $180.30. October feeder cattle up 60 cents at $146.02. November up 240 at $147.87. December lean hogs up 145 at $65.77. February up 65 at $73.27. I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 4:34, 26 minutes now before 5 o'clock. 33 degrees, weather forecast, cloudy this into the evening. Our high may get to be 34 degrees, 33, 34, who cares, right? Overnight cloudy, then gradually becoming partly cloudy with a low of 22 degrees. A little frost on the pumpkin again tonight. On Thursday, it'll be sunny with a high of 40. Friday, some snow. Probably a little snow between 11 and noon, and then some rain after that, the whole thing, you know. Cloudy that day with a high of 42. Saturday, mostly sunny with a high of 42. Sunday, it'll be sunny with a high of 48. On Monday, it'll be sunny with a high of 50. And on Tuesday, partly sunny with a high of 40. Right now, again, it's 33 degrees. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks closing higher with the S&P 500 notching another record close after the Federal Reserve cut its benchmark interest rate for the third time this year to a range of between 1.5% and 1 3/4%. With the Dow rising 115 points, the Nasdaq up 27, S&P 500 up 10. And Apple delivering earnings beating Wall Street expectations with its guidance for its important holiday quarter in line with analyst estimates. Its services revenue reaching an all-time high of $12.5 billion. And shares of Facebook popping after hours after the social media media company announced third quarter results that beat analysts' earnings estimates and top revenue forecasts, with ad sales jumping and monthly active users rising. And Starbucks reporting quarterly earnings and revenue that met analysts' expectations as the coffee giant's loyalty program and new delivery options boosted demand and helped it fend off competition. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. See website for full details and important safety information.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED at affordable prices. And Hims makes it extra affordable. And right now, get your first online visit totally free when you go to forhims.com/joy. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/joy. forhims.com/joy.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 437 now and 33 degrees. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Sorry to report the death of Cindy Peterson of Badger. Cindy Peterson has passed away at the age of 67. She died Tuesday at the Paula J. Baber Hospice Home here in Fort Dodge. There will be a celebration of the life of Cindy Peterson, and that'll be held at the Badger Lutheran Church at 10 in the morning, November 2nd. Visitation will be held Friday, November the 1st, at Badger Lutheran Church. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucefuneralhome.com. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 438 and 33 degrees.
Doors are being slammed in your face, and bad credit is holding you back. Raise Credit has dedicated over 40 years to helping everyone get a 750 credit score. Tax liens, judgments, and even late pays can be removed from your personal credit report. $99 can get you started. Raise Credit will personally rebuild your credit to a 750 and build you all the credit you need. Guaranteed or your money back and a $1,000 visa when you complete the program. Raise Credit will give you what you want. Call Raise Credit. Call 800-543-5772. That's 800-543-5772. Call now.
What if I told you there was a way to step into another gear for your brain and be much sharper, more focused, and improve your memory to a level that you could only dream about, and notice these results in 30 minutes? Hard to believe? Neuroscientists are calling this new brain discovery the biggest advancement in brain science to date. It's called Limitless, the brain pill of the future. Take it, and within 30 minutes, you'll transport your mind to a new level of focus and clarity you would have never thought possible.
I took Limitless, and it started working in minutes. All of a sudden, it felt like a dark cloud had been lifted up right before my eyes. I have a mental clarity I've never felt before.
Biz execs, athletes,
managing those difficult-to-control weeds. Hello, I'm Megan Grebner, and this is Managing for Profit on Brownfield, a content partnership with the Roundup Ready Extend Crop System. Different parts of the country have their own challenging weeds to control. For Missouri farmer BT Meredith, it's pigweed. In this Managing for Profit, BT talks about their switch to the Roundup Ready Extend Crop System and how it's been a game changer for his operation. We'll find out more on Brownfield right after this.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Cynthia and Ed.
My mother was always very active and independent, and she was familiar with her neighborhood. But one day, out of the blue, she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. And she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn or just stay at the stop sign. She wasn't even really sure where she was at. She was very concerned. It was very unsettling for her.
It's important for you to talk to someone about it, to bring the family in on it. I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
BT Meredith farms in the Boot Heel of Missouri. He tells Brownfield he was looking for a solution to control pigweed when he found the Roundup Ready Extend Crop System.
And in our part of the country, there's a tremendous amount of it, and we have a ton of pigweed pressure. And the XtendiMax system seems to be the only way that we're able to control it. We've been trying to overlay residuals as much as possible, but you're still going to have escapes. And that's really our biggest issue in soybeans in our area is the pigweed.
Meredith says they made the switch 2 years ago because the weed control system that they had been using stopped working, and they were starting to see weed escapes in their fields.
And we were having a lot of trouble keeping our fields clean. With weather and rains coming in and things at different times, it's hard to get residuals overlapped in a timely manner. And whenever you miss one of those windows due to the weather or different conditions, the XtendiMax system lets us go in and clean those places up.
And despite the challenges Mother Nature hit farmers with throughout the entire growing season, Meredith says he's happy with yields so far this year.
Our better ground, our higher ground, we've obviously had a little bit better crop on. We're seeing mid-60 yields in the mid-60s, which is not great, but it's a lot better, than what we've had in the past.
He says controlling weeds is one of the most important things he can do on his farm to help it survive during the turbulent farm economy.
With the market the way it is today, and with margins being tight and everything, to be able to get the best weed control possible is very important. And if you've got a grown-up crop, you're not going to have a very good crop. And the only way to make it in our ag economy right now is to have a good, clean crop.
And Meredith says because of their success so far with the Roundup Ready Extend crop system, they'll continue to use it.
We'll have roughly around 1,500 acres of soybeans probably, and it's pretty much guaranteed we'll be 100% XtendiMax. It makes growing the crop a lot easier.
And according to Bayer Crop Science, XtendiMax herbicide with vapor grip technology is most effective when used in conjunction with recommended residual herbicides, along with other diversified weed management practices. I'm Megan Grebner with Managing for Profit on Brownfield, a content partnership with the Roundup Ready Extend crop system.
We are the land of the free because of the brave. Alpha Media and Graham Tire want to thank our local military men and women for their service. Our Wall of the Brave is currently displayed at Graham Tire of Fort Dodge. We invite you to stop out to Graham Tire and sign the wall as a show of support for our military. This special veterans promotion is sponsored by Graham Tire of Fort Dodge, Farm Nutrients, Advanced Heating and Cooling, River Valley Winery and Orchards, the Co-op Bar and Grill, and Alpha Media Fort Dodge.
Are you almost 65 years old? Time flies, doesn't it? Well, Medicare enrollment is coming up, and you have some decisions to make. The problem? It can be totally confusing. Medicare Part A and Part B, Medigap Plan F versus Plan G. The alternatives practically run the alphabet. Pick the wrong thing, and you may pay more than you have to. Relax. Call eHealth. We have over 20 years of insurance experience and offer Medicare supplement plans from several of the largest insurance companies. Our licensed insurance agents are well equipped to offer solutions that may maximize your savings. We can help you with questions about coverage for your doctor, pharmacy, hospital, medical care, and prescription drug costs. We can also help you check if dental, vision, and hearing coverage are available. So, you can make a big fat guess or call eHealth now for a free consultation. There's no obligation to enroll, so call now. 800-MEDIGAP. 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 This is an insurance ad for eHealth, a licensed insurance agency not affiliated with Medicare or any government agency. This ad is not for Minnesota or Texas consumers.
Michael Devine, standing for Medicare and Social Security. After a lifetime of work, you deserve it. AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, you do deserve it, and I'm standing with you as we push back on efforts to amend or do away with Medicare and Social Security. We got to get the Democratic Party's focus off transgender surgery first of all, and start getting focused on economic issues. And I think that's happening. Unless I completely miss the point of the debates and all these Democratic candidates here in Iowa who are going to very small towns in Iowa and carrying their message out there. They know that's where they lost the election with Hillary Clinton. And they didn't just lose the presidency. They lost both houses, the Senate and the House, and over 900 legislative seats. So the Democratic Party has been working feverishly to, to not be forced to disband. I mean, you've seen some of the efforts here with people elected to the council and the board of supervisors who have, Democratic leaning, shall I say, or are Democrats. And by the way, the idea that I have no respect for women is complete bunk. I don't have much respect for middle-class liberals who cry about the nation's ills or the town's ills or the county's ills or the state's ills and do very little other than vote and complain about it. I mean, if you get right down to it, some of our professional class liberals should put their money where their mouth is. In other words, there's a lot of poverty in this state. There doesn't have to be a lot of poverty in this state, but the Democratic Party has ignored economic issues in our state, and the comfortable liberal middle class doesn't want to touch the issue at all. They don't want to touch the issue of income inequality because it might cost them a few dollars. Well, I guarantee you it'll cost them a few dollars. So it's not like I favor one group over the other. It's not that I think that men or women are genetically superior to the other. I don't. I have a problem with the self-centered emotional thinking of some liberals in general, male and female. So, glad I got that off my chest. By the way, the billionaire class that supports the Democratic Party is really in a twist. They're concerned that an Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders might actually win. They want somebody, a corporate Democrat like Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg or even Amy Klobuchar. They don't want somebody who threatens their lifestyle and their place in our society. They like being catered to. They like being genuflected to. And they're afraid if the big structural changes that Elizabeth Warren talks about happen, their influence and their prestige, most of all, will be diminished. So they'd like to focus. You always see them at an abortion rights rally, or if there's an abortion rights campaign or whatever, or gay rights, call it anything. Now it's now we have to force taxpayers to pay for transgender surgery, or we're terrible human beings. Oh, God. I don't care if you have transgender surgery. Go get it whacked off. Just don't expect me to pay for it. But my betters must force me to pay for it because they're better. Do you see how that worked? You saw how that worked, right? It all came together for you like kind of a long 6-line equation or something. Oh, yes. There it is. I see it now. I'm just inferior to liberals. My thinking isn't woke. By the way, Barack Obama laid into some woke liberals, and at a conference recently, the woke class, as I've referred to it in the past, Barack Obama, no less a figure within the Democratic Party and the liberal movement than Barack Obama, absolutely slammed hashtag activism. Hashtag active. I love that term. Former President Obama said that the idea of purity, and that seems to be the goal, the idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, I'm quoting President Obama here, you should get over that quickly. You should get over yourselves because it's narcissism. Screaming your head off that Donald Trump is president just annoys people and divides us. I don't know if we can come back. But anyway, back to President Obama, former President Obama. He had strong words for liberal activists whose tactics rely on shaming all those who disagree with them. All those who disagree with them. And who don't accept their definition of racism or sexism or anything, because their definition is pure and correct, and ours is always false. I want to quote President Obama here again. The idea of purity, and you're never compromised, and you'll always be politically woke. Again, he said, get over that. If I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or use the wrong verb, I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself. See how woke I was. I called you out, said Obama, criticizing this way of thinking. This is not activism. That's not being about change. If all you're doing is casting stones, you're probably not going to get that far. President Obama noted that some people who do great things have serious flaws, while some of the people fighting hardest against the things liberals want love their kids and share certain things with you. So to all the Mark Ruffalo's of the world who were mad at Ellen for sitting in the same booth with former President George W. Bush, shut up. Just shut up. Nobody is that sensitive, and if you are, the world's too tough for you. The world is just too tough for you. If you need a hug 2 or 3 or 4 times a day, get back in your hothouse. The world is too tough for you. By the way, the piece I was referring to and drawing from was about campus free speech in Reason magazine. Reason magazine. You know, I disagreed a lot with Barack Obama. I was not one of those, and I criticized Rush Limbaugh heavily for insisting that he wanted President Obama to fail. Well, that was an ugly, dumb idea, because Barack Obama fails, we all lose. Apparently the idea of the free market was more important than the country and its people, something I can never really get my mind around when I hear that coming out of conservatives, in some cases Republicans. Apparently the free market is the only thing that we have that's worth anything at all. Of course, that's terribly self-serving thinking. Terribly self-serving thinking. But I took Rush Limbaugh to task many, many, many times. I took the unusual step, I think, of emailing him. I've never done that with another talk show host in my life. And brought that up to him, that if you wish a president to fail, well, we all fail. And by the way, you're an idiot for saying that. And Rush is the king of the provocateurs, of course. Well, I'm glad no one was killed at this shooting on the south side last night. When are we going to do something about this, kids? I had Chip Baltimore in here for a very necessary conversation on broadband, if we should have it from his point of view. I don't agree with Chip at all. I think we need broadband. I think we need it right away. And Chip quoted a debt service obligation contradicting city manager David Furyk. And David Furyk has told us that we won't be on the hook. Well, here, I'm gonna do this. Rather than try to explain it, I'm going to play this clip again. And I played it for Chip Baltimore when he was here earlier. This is from yesterday's show with David Furyk on how we finance broadband. Stay with us now. It's about 3.5 minutes long, but it's worth a listen. We're going to finance city broadband, if it passes, first of all, on November 5th, which I certainly hope it does. But if it does pass, then we are going to proceed with finding out about city broadband.
Yes.
And, of course, after last night's council meeting where Curtis Dean and what's the other man's name? Curtis Dean and Ty something.
Todd. What was his like?
Something.
I
can't remember.
I know,
it doesn't really make any difference. Anyway, Curtis Dean, a consultant with Smart Source Consulting, spelled it out for us, what's going to happen and pretty much how much the cost. And, of course, these lobbyists went freaking out, running around with their hair on fire, trying to scare everybody in Webster County. But the real question is, we're going to proceed, providing the vote is there, with revenue bonds to construct the project. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
If the council decides to construct the project as a public utility.
The voters have to approve it, and
Yes.
then the council has to do this.
Yes.
Approve it as a public utility.
Questions?
The United States Gypsum Trophy went up.
We're going to define public utility here in just a minute, but right now, we're going to settle this question. The anti-competition people are saying that there's a lot of places around the country that constructed broadband, used revenue bonds, and then the taxpayers were stuck with the bill. The taxpayers ultimately were stuck with the bill. With the revenue with the revenue bond plan that we have, will taxpayers in Fort Dodge, if we can't make our payments, be stuck with the cost or the payments?
No, and I'll explain
why.
why.
Okay,
well,
please
let's
do.
explain. Because, well, first of all, you got to understand that the laws that allow cities to borrow money, whether that become taxable payments, tax payments, or revenue bonds, vary state to state. So there are things that the city of Fort Dodge can and can't do in Iowa that a town of similar size and structure in Illinois can do differently. For example, if you're a town the size of Fort Dodge, 25,000 in Illinois, you can issue general obligation bonds without a vote.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a vote because you're called a home rule community. You
Right.
can go do that. In Iowa, the city of Fort Dodge or any home rule community, home rule really doesn't exist when it comes to municipal finance in Iowa. It's kind of a joke. Fort Dodge can only issue general obligations up to $700,000, except for a few purposes that the state has said those are essential purposes of which you can issue any amount of debt. So broadband network is not one of those essential purposes. So if the city wanted to put the taxpayers on the hook for this network, it requires a vote of the community and not this vote. This vote is only given permission to establish a network. That vote would require, say, okay, the city's going to issue whatever $1 million in bonds to be paid from whatever source, and they need to get taxpayer approval. Similarly, like the Roselle Rapids Aquatic Center, that had to go to a vote. It required a 60% vote to pass. Any vote in any general obligation bond vote requires a 60% majority. You know, the schools did some lately. So that's where we would be. So one is the council has no intention of paying these with revenue bonds or paying these with general obligation bonds as we're sitting here now. If they chose to, which I would highly doubt, we would go back to the voters and have to get permission to sell general obligation revenue bonds. We're not asking for permission to sell general obligation bonds now. We're asking permission to have the ability to establish a network of which we would use revenue bonds for.
So, well, that's what David Furyk had to say yesterday. Now that was disputed by Chip Baltimore earlier today. And what we have are two very learned opinions, and I'll have to find out which one is closest to the truth, I guess. That's what I'm trying to do because I love Fort Dodge and my job. 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This is KVFD, Fort Dodge, Iowa. Thank you very much for listening.
Hi, this is Gary Rima, the voice of the University of Northern Iowa Panthers, and this is the home for Panther Sports, the voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Thousands forced to flee. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. High winds sparking more wildfires in California, and one is threatening the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library.
Windy weather has fueled the Hill Fire in Riverside, east of Los Angeles, as well as the Easy Fire in Ventura County, northwest of L.A. Incident Commander Chad Cook says they were able to beat back flames from the Reagan Presidential Library.
Early on in the incident, we hit very turbulent air, and we had to shut down air operations just out of safety for the pilots and safety for the members of the crews of those aircraft.
Some areas near this fire had the power shut off because of high winds. Pacific Gas and Electric in Northern California say they are restoring power to people after their latest shutoff, but hundreds of thousands of people were still without power midday Wednesday.
Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. The House Rules Committee now considering a resolution laying the framework for the next phase of the impeachment inquiry. Committee Chair Jim McGovern of Massachusetts.
I don't know whether President Trump will be impeached. Only the facts and how we respond to them will dictate that. But I can tell you this. This process determining whether he should be impeached will be open to the public view, just as it should be.
Oklahoma Republican Tom Cole says the process has not been open or transparent.
Been limited and closed, and frankly, I think we're moving toward a preordained result.
Democrats say the president or his lawyer will be able to participate once the Judiciary Committee considers articles of impeachment. A source tells Fox 3 more witnesses, including former National Security Advisor John Bolton, are scheduled to testify next week. Twitter announcing it's banning all political ads. CEO Jack Dorsey saying social media companies give advertisers an unfair advantage. Wall Street at the close, stocks rose broadly after the Fed lowered interest rates for the third time this year. The Dow rose 115 points, the Nasdaq added 27, the S&P plus 9. America's listening to Fox News.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. I've got great news. Mortgage interest rates have dropped. So if you're thinking about buying a home, right now is the time to lock that low rate, even before you find the home of your dreams. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With your KVFD News Update, I'm Rob Jones. The Fort Dodge Fire Department rescued a woman from a house fire this morning. Around 5:40 a.m., the fire was reported. Firefighters quickly arrived on the scene at 128 Avenue F. Upon arrival, they made entry through a window into a bedroom where they found a woman in the home. They were able to extract the woman from the burning house through the same window. The woman was taken to Unity Point Health Trinity Regional Medical Center due to smoke inhalation. There were 2 other people in the home who escaped prior to the fire department's arrival. Fort Dodge Fire Chief Steve Hergenreiter said, "It was great teamwork by the crew on scene to be able to make the rescue, and it shows how highly trained they are." The Fort Dodge Study Club will have a celebration event for the Lotus Community Project this Friday, November 1st, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The event will take place at Fort Frenzy's Cardiff Center here in Fort Dodge, and tickets are $25 per person. The event will feature live music by Ruthless Ruth as well as a silent auction. The event will feature heavy hors d'oeuvres as well. The victim in last night's shooting incident on the south side of Fort Dodge has now been identified as 19-year-old Taylon Sturts. The call came in around 7:40 last night that there were possible shots fired in the area of 14th Avenue South and South 23rd Street here in Fort Dodge. Officers arrived on scene and located Sturts, who had been shot. She was then taken to Unity Point Trinity Regional Medical Center, then life-flighted to Des Moines in stable condition. No arrests have been made in the case, and police say there is little information being provided. The police do believe that the incident was not a random act. They feel those involved knew each other, and they believe that there are people with direct knowledge of the incident. Those individuals are encouraged to contact the police department with that information. For KVFD from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Lows level off around 22 tonight, under cloudy skies, northwesterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. High temperatures reach up to 38 tomorrow, bright sunshine. Partly cloudy skies tomorrow night, 25. Low 40s Friday and Saturday, with a chance for mixed precipitation Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm staff meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 33 degrees.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey, your host. Thanks for joining us. Open phones at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Rachel is with us in Washington. Hi, Rachel. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hi, Dave. Pleasure to speak with you.
You too. What's up?
I really want to know what to do with my student loans. This is kind of my aha moment. I was comparing two bills, and the bill numbers are going up, and I've been paying on them for what seems like forever. I am in the income-based plan and on the federal student loan forgiveness plan, which I'm not counting on. But I'm wondering if I should refinance them and be paying in the full amount on them now. Well, it's in my debt snowball. It's kind of the top one on my list, right? So, or should I just keep them in the income-based plan, pay that minimum balance, and then just keep it there while I'm on the debt snowball, or refinance?
I'm sorry.
it
When
once I get to it in the debt
you
snowball?
said the top of the debt snowball, you mean it's the largest debt or your smallest debt?
Correct, the largest.
Okay. And so, how much other debt do you have? How much debt do you have total, not counting your house?
Not counting my house, I have $1,800 on one credit card, $3,800 on another, $10,000 on a line of credit. I have a $17,000 car payment and about $30,000 in student loans.
And what is your income?
I make about $60,000 a year, and I'm a single mom.
Okay. Pretty expensive car.
Yeah, first car payment.
Okay. And you're just starting this whole thing?
Yeah, I just started the budget app, Every Dollar, about in August.
Good for you. How old are you?
31.
Good for you. Okay, good. Well, I'm proud of you. Good start. All right. Well, the income-based is always going to go backwards, almost always, depending on your income. But usually it creates a payment that does not even cover the interest. And so the extra interest is added to the balance. Okay, so the income-based does not ever get you out of debt, unless you have a very high income, which you wouldn't be on income-based usually then. So, and as you know, you've already discovered in a short time listening to us that, we're discovering the income or the student loan forgiveness program is a fraud.
Yeah.
30,000 people have applied for it. 93 have gotten it. And so
I'm like 3.5 years out of 10. No.
Yeah, and it's pretty bad plan. So anyway, we've got to have another way to get rid of this debt. Now, so we're going to work the debt snowball, clear off all these other debts. When you don't have any payments but the student loan, then you're going to be able to attack the student loan with a vengeance, and you'll clear it up in less than 2 years at that point. So you probably have about a 3-year plan.
I had about 5.
No, you're gonna work extra. And you're gonna sell some stuff. You may need to sell this car and get down into about a $5,000 car, and that'll help you get rid of a big hairy payment. Number one, how much is your payment on that car?
It's about $305.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But I have it on a 7-year loan.
Yeah, well, you're not anymore because you're paying it off in 3, or you're going to get rid of it. Because what I'm looking at here is basically I've got about
$60,000 worth of debt making $60,000. So if we do 20 a year, for 3 years, that puts you out of debt. That's what I'm looking at. If you can't do that and you can't see your way of doing that in the budget, then you do need to get rid of the car. But I think that's probably pretty doable somewhere in there. You're probably working some extra jobs or some overtime. You're probably selling some other stuff. You're definitely not seeing the inside of a restaurant unless you're working there, and you're definitely not going on vacation. You have a freaking mess you're cleaning up here. And it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, I got rid of the vacation account.
Good. Well, it's scary looking at all this. And if you don't, so here's the thing. It doesn't matter what payment plan you're on with your student loan if it's going to be gone in 3 years anyway.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could continue to pay the income-based until you get to it on the debt snowball and then tear into it, right? When you're there, because that's going to be your only debt left at that point, and you're going to go bananas on that thing and just knock it out. And so that, how you pay your debt snowball or how you pay your student loan or whether you pay your student loan doesn't really matter if you're on a 3-year plan to get rid of it, because you're going to be done with it that quickly anyway. And that's where you need to be. So we've got to get you tied into that. Let me do this. Let's put you into Financial Peace University, the 9-week class, and then Financial Peace, the 1-year membership, which will give you the upgrade for your Every Dollar to Every Dollar Plus, and it connects to your bank, and you can go to the 9-week class, and you can get in the online communities that are really supportive, and you can watch the stuff we do streaming. There's all kinds of stuff in this membership. It is a very, very valuable thing, and I'm going to give it to you for free. I want to help you get turned around on this, kiddo. You can do this. Sarah is with us in New York. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Awesome. So my husband and I are debt-free, and we are in baby step 3B. And I was wondering how much money is acceptable for us to spend on a vacation.
It's up to you. You can decide.
Okay, so
it's a pretty simple equation, and the reason for your call is the equation strains you. And the equation is the more I spend on vacation, the less I put in my house down payment fund.
Yes, and I feel guilty.
Well, that's a positive adult kind of a thing, not a negative shame, but just this idea that, how much you obviously want to go on some kind of a vacation, but So, what's your household income?
Our household income is $120,000.
How much is in your house down payment fund so far?
We just reached $30,000.
Good for you. Well done.
Thank you.
So, what's your goal?
Our goal is to buy a $250,000 house and have somewhere between 15% to 20% down. So
you want like 50 grand?
Yes.
And you have 30. Okay.
Yes.
And what are you talking about spending on the vacation?
So we had budgeted $4,000 to come to South Carolina for FPU Live, which is so exciting. So we budgeted $4,000 for that. That's including like restaurants for a week.
So you're going to enjoy Charleston while you're there?
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, I would,
other...
regardless of Financial Peace Live, I would do a $4,000 vacation in this scenario. It's not throwing off your goal that much. I would not do a $14,000 vacation in that scenario. The ratios are what I'm looking at. Your income, the amount you have saved, and your goal. $4,000 doesn't throw you off your goal. $14,000 would. And that's where I'm getting my answer. So I think you do the vacation. I would. In Charleston's a great vacation town, too, by the way. This is the Dave Ramsey Show. If you've turned on the TV, read a paper, or been on the web lately, then you know this country's in the midst of an identity theft crisis. Equifax is attempting to settle with its 150 million breach victims. Now that's a joke. And Capital One exposed the records of over 100 million Americans. These are just the breaches making the news. You can't possibly still think you don't need identity theft protection. Folks, this problem is not going away. The only way to fight it is being prepared with an ID theft protection plan, and the only one I have ever used or recommended is from Zander Insurance. They cover all types of ID theft, take over the work if you become a victim, and even protect your money if it gets hacked. They also cover kids for free on their family plan. ID theft is a nightmare, and you need to get protected. Call 800-356-4282 or visit Zander.com.
Two of my favorite things are pizza and my bed, thanks to my Tuft & Needle mattress. But a new favorite thing has entered my life. That's right. I absolutely love my Tuft & Needle pillows. Amazing. I just ordered 2 of their foam pillows, and I didn't think it was possible, but my sleep got even better. But listen, if you're one of the smart ones who's already taken my advice and gotten your mattress, go back to tn.com and check out their pillows, sheets, and duvets. You'll fall even more in love with Tuft & Needle. That's tn.com.
There's only 3 things I say you should do before you start your baby steps. One of those is getting a will. If you have not done this simple task, stop whatever you're doing and get it done now. Go to mamabearlegalforms.com to get started. Everything you need is in one place, and my listeners can get 20% off by using the promo code Ramsey at checkout. Get your complete will package at mamabearlegalforms.com.
Radio Iowa News is presented by the Iowa Secretary of State's Office. Be voter ready for the November 5th city and school elections. For more information, visit voterreadyiowa.org.
I'm Dar Danielson. Iowa high school students who took the ACT have tied for the best average score in the country with South Dakota. Department of Education Director Ryan Wise says it ranks the states with more than half the students of the class of 2019 taking the test.
We have the right roadmap in place with our focus on early literacy as well as career and technical education.
The ACT is based in Iowa City. More and more vehicles on Iowa roadways are sporting the blackout license plate. DOT Vehicle Services Manager Daniel Ye says more than 46,000 plates have been sold since they started selling them in July. They now top the University of Iowa Hawkeye specialty plate.
The blackout plate has surpassed that. It is now our #1 specialty plate.
Ye says 95% of the cars, though, still sport the non-personalized standard plate. That's your news on Radio Iowa. I'm Dar Danielson.
You work hard, and you deserve to get the most for your money. Like health insurance coverage with the largest, most accessible networks, so you can choose where you want to go for care. Like having multiple plans, so you can choose the coverage that works best for you. Mostly, you deserve to have the health insurance expertise Iowans have been trusting for over 80 years. Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield. To find the small business or individual plan that's right for you, talk to your local agent about Wellmark today. Get started at wellmark.com.
Hey, remember that time? That's how most good hunting stories start in Wisconsin. Hunting in Wisconsin is about the adventure of hunting for food and the big buck. It's about making memories in wide open spaces, deer camp, and sitting around the fire with new and old friends. When you go hunting in Wisconsin, you'll want to come back year after year. Come for the adventure, hunt for the memories. Start planning your trip today at gowild.wi.gov. Wisconsin DNR, adventures and
Justin and Anna Paulina are with us from San Antonio, Texas. I see on my screen you guys are debt-free. Congratulations.
Yes, sir, we are.
Thank you.
Way to go. How much have you paid off?
In the last 12 months, we've paid off $37,000.
Very good. And your range of income during that time?
We've been making total us together $90,000.
Very good. What do you guys do for a living?
We work at a children's home. It's Arms of Hope.
Mm-hmm. Both of you?
Yes, sir.
Very
and
good.
We live here on campus, so that's what really helped us is because we live here on campus and we don't pay rent. So
very nice. So 90,000 plus free housing.
Yes, sir.
Sweet. And what kind of debt was the 37,000?
It was my student loans. I got my master's, so the total for my student loans.
Okay. So how long you guys been married?
We've been married 4.5 years. Yeah, a little over 4.5 years.
So what happened 12 months ago that set you on fire?
Well, we got these incredible jobs, and we knew that it was a very unique situation, and so we said we didn't want to be in debt for the rest of our lives. And at some point, we got introduced to financial peace here through our work, actually. They offered it, and we were just on board. We didn't want to be paying student loans for the next 25 years, so we said we're going to live off of one income and just put everything into as much as possible into student loans, and we just had a goal in mind, and it happened.
1 year later, you're done.
Yes, exactly.
Way to go.
12 months.
Congratulations. I love it. How's it feel to be free?
It feels good. And what I said, sometimes I think, oh, man, we spent all that money and put it to the government. But now we're getting to do the same thing and put it into savings. And so it's pretty cool that now that money's staying with us instead of just going somewhere else.
Yeah, now that you got control of it and you're not working for someone else. You didn't have another Sally Mae living in your house there on campus.
Yeah, and we're expecting a baby in the next couple weeks. So
yay!
Our first baby actually due on Monday. Due date's on Monday.
Whoa! Look at you. That's fun. Well,
Yeah.
Congratulations, you guys. Life is good. I'm proud of you guys. Who were your biggest cheerleaders?
Jesus.
But definitely here at work, our CFO and just the team here really cheered us on, and even providing the program was super helpful for us.
Yeah, employers providing that financial piece or providing smart dollar for their teams is it's spreading like wildfire. Lots and lots of them are doing. The whole financial wellness movement is really starting to explode. We've been working on it for about a decade, but we're really seeing a lot of companies doing this now. That's a wonderful thing they did with that to offer that to you guys.
You're seeing the fruit of it, Dave.
Yeah, you guys are it. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, congratulations. What do you tell people the key to getting out of debt is?
Yeah, the key, I guess, discipline. Yeah, you have to want it. You have to want to be free of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
you have
just
to want it.
be disciplined and be willing to sacrifice nights out, going